Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, June 21st, 2021. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Newfane Selectboard meeting. We have Shelley Huber, Katie Johnson-Ackland, Ann Golob, and myself, Angela Sanborn, Juanetta Powling, and Austin from BCTV, and members of the public. The first thing on is additions and amendments to the agenda.
I have one addition, a request to continue with using Zoom for our meetings, even though we're meeting in public.
We'll add that to the agenda. Maybe with old business and the COVID restrictions?
Sure.
Okay. I have an amendment to the agenda to remove the access permit submitted by the Manitou on Sunset Lake Road until the appeal has been resolved according to state and local law. And that's part of Jay's road foreman report. Any other additions or amendments?
No, I just have a question as to what this from Gordon Bristol.
Juanetta, can you?
That's what we just discussed. Is that Manitou?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Manitou. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Understand?
Yep, got it.
Thank you.
Any other additions or amendments? Well, hearing none, we'll go into the approval of the June 7th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And ayes have it. Katie. And now we'll go into the road foreman and road commissioners report. Good evening, Jay. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So the Monroe Bridge is just about finished. I went up there a couple hours ago and they're got some cleanup to do and a couple of little spots they're patching up, and other than that, they should be out of there. So I think people have enjoyed having 2 lanes of traffic instead of the traffic light there. Deep Road Box Culvert, I should have a new easement document tonight. And Bob Fisher can contact the new bank. He's got a heads up on it that he's going to try to jump right on them and see if he can get to him before they can transfer it again. So I'm hoping, it's not in my email yet, but I was hoping to have it back tonight so that we can get going on it. Sand salt shed has nothing new to report. The paving was completed near the covered bridge. I don't know when the state will be painting the yellow lines, which are always helpful on new pavement, but you gotta paint the whole town and they just don't have any paint. So I don't know quite when that would be. The guardrail work was completed on Depot Road and Stratton Hill Bridge. And then for the 2 pieces of rail we needed for the bridge near you, it's taken the way of the road paint, and it's ordered, but we don't know when we'll see it. So
Okay. Sometime.
yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And I've been working on a truck replacement for the last couple months of the F550, which is the little dump truck that plows all the bad roads. And I started out trying to go through the state bid. And I found out that none of them would order any trucks at this point because of the supply of trucks isn't very good right now. So I called a bunch of dealers, did a lot of online searching, talked with a number of them, and none of them were interested in bidding on a truck because they figured it wouldn't be there by the time we awarded the bid. So they all suggested that we find the truck with the right specs and go that route. And it's different than it used to be. Nothing is normal. So then we would then have to go have the body put on it, whereas we used to have it done as a package. They're not really interested in doing that anymore. So I have located 2 trucks, one Ford and one Dodge. The Ford was about $10,000 cheaper because they give a bigger municipal discount than Dodge does. And it's just a matter of how do you want to go about it? The trucks, they said within any given week, the supply changes drastically. So if we find one this week, it probably won't be there next week, kind of thing. So I don't know how you want to go about this, but things are different than we're used to.
One second, Jay. Shelley?
So Jay, the question was whether or not we're planned for this truck for when?
What was that?
When was our, this truck planned for in the budget?
It was supposed to get replaced last year and we put it off because of COVID.
Okay,
We're a year into it and we spent, I think, $3,500 more on repairs
yeah,
for this one. So it's time it goes. It plows a really rough route, all the really bad roads. So it's well used. So the Ford is $51,885 and the Dodge was $62,240. And then we'll have to have the body put in it, which is about another $52,000. So it's roughly, if you do the Ford, we're looking at $103,000 or $4,000 total. And then we sell the old one, so that will come off it when the new one finally arrives.
I think we have to kind of
Play
move
money.
on it.
So
You have to what?
Kind of move on it.
Jay, what do you need from us so that you can go forward with
Well-
something when you find the right thing?
That's the problem is, I mean, I'm assuming this truck I called on Friday is still there. If it's not, then I'll have to start looking again. But that's kind of what we're up against is we have to act, when we find one, we're gonna have to act quickly, which this one, I talked with him Friday, he thought we'd be fine today. After that, I don't know. Just a weird, apparently the trucks aren't really being built right now because of the shortage of the little microchips. So there's apparently Speedway's just full of trucks waiting for parts and they have none to ship.
Shelley?
So do we need to provide a deposit to secure this truck that you've got it identified?
Probably something.
I would think so.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something in order to hold it.
Like 20%? What would be a
Well-
reasonable number to put down to hold it?
Well, this one is on the lot, ready to go, so more than likely they're gonna wanna do the transaction soon. I mean, we can, once we say we're gonna take it and sign for it, I'm sure we've got a little bit of time to come up with the money. But it's not like we've done in the past where we could take time and find a number of trucks to look at. There isn't a lot out there. It's really slim pickings.
Do you have any preference between the Ford and the Dodge?
The Ford will enable us to try a different pump for the hydraulics, which goes on the power takeoff. And it's supposed to not be dependent on RPM of the engine. So we get it sanding more evenly as we go downhill too, as well as uphill. So that's kind of interesting. And we can't do that with the Dodge. It doesn't have that provision. So we'd still have to do the same pump that we've used before.
Shelley? You have
So
another-
you're replacing a Ford already at 550?
Right.
Okay.
Do you know off the top, what the purchasing policy, if it has anything in there about putting a down payment on a vehicle?
I don't.
So I don't know if we need to make a policy.
Do we need to make a motion to have some money available to jump when Jay needs to?
You know what I would ask?
Yes.
Melissa has the money in the capital equipment fund.
There we go.
So
I would have him go back to the dealer, ask what kind of deposit he would take. And then in the interim, she's not here, Melissa, right now. We can investigate and find out how we can expedite those funds.
Do we want to make a motion as to how much we want to possibly put down if it's,
But if we have the money, why wouldn't we just pay for it?
this
It's
is
in the
true?
budget.
Right, it's budgeted.
If we have we have the money in the budget, why wouldn't we just pay for
I
it?
just don't know if we are allowed to move it from one fund to another without
I'm not sure of that.
Without what?
Melissa telling us, the treasurer.
Oh,
Maybe we need Melissa?
Yeah, but she's not here tonight. So what I'm proposing is that we make a motion that we would move the money based on, what's 20% of 50, what was it, 52,000?
51,
About
It's
12.
like 10,000.
50. Yeah, be a little over 10,000.
Okay, so let's say for 15,000 for a deposit based on getting an approval by the treasurer.
Yep.
And then
I tried to do that today and I couldn't get her, so
Melissa?
about it. Melissa, I tried today, but I wasn't able to get her.
Yeah, she had to leave for personal reasons.
Yep.
But if we make a motion, then we can follow up tomorrow on it. So I make a motion that we take $15,000 out of the capital funds
Yes,
and apply it to a deposit on the F-550 again.
it's actually an F600. It's a little slightly heavier duty GVW than the 550, but the same, it looks like the same truck.
Yeah, F600.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. But do we, with the caveat, should we just allocate the whole? Are we allowed to? Like, if it's
It's in the
there, why
budget.
not?
I don't,
Well,
why not go forward this way? If Melissa tells us we need to do something else, we could always do it.
To save another motion.
Yeah. Unless there's a specific motion you think we should make.
If timeliness is the key,
Yeah,
then
that's
maybe
right.
we need to have the whole
Yeah,
amount for
so
them.
say up
to
to
buy
what,
it.
60,000, let's amend that to, that we actually move, 60,000 out of the capital funds?
What kind of
the price of the
taxes
truck
would be
He said I thought
included?
it was 100 total.
I
well,
think-
that's after,
But that's the
purchase of
I
the
see.
truck.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think there is any tax, municipal or
I'm not
tax
sure.
exempt.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Is there a second to the amended motion?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All
That's
those
for 60,000?
for 60,000.
Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. All right.
Okay, Jay.
Thank you. I have the new radar sign on its way for Route 30, and Angela and I have been talking about the locations that the V-Trans traffic ops person had suggested. And it looks like one will be towards, how do I describe it? The first 30-mile-an-hour speed limit as you come south into Newfane. And the other one will be down, I believe it's just by Bruce Brook Road, I think is where the other sign is. So when we get the second sign sometime this coming year, we'll have one at each end of the village. And we have to get a permit from V-Trans for that sign. So I'll start working on that. Mark's gonna send me the permit to fill out today or tonight, he said he would. And finally, the Arch Bridge is scheduled to go out to bid on July 7th. So looks like it's really gonna happen.
For what, next year though, right?
It's wonderful.
Or next March, yep.
Last week in March.
The only other thing I didn't put in the report was, I'm sure you've seen the orange tree trucks around town, the Asplin tree. They've been parking here at the garage for on and off for the last probably 6 months. And we had a little tree work that was kind of an emergency, and they went and did it for free for us. So I'd like to give them a thank you for helping us out.
That's great, thank you.
Great.
Anything else for the road foreman and commissioners report? Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Second?
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's been approved. Moving on to one edit administrative assistance report.
I've included a memo that I sent out to communities and organizations that help run the town of Newfane, asking them to consider scheduling time to present to the select board the accounting and progress projects. I have not heard back from anybody yet, so that's still a work in progress. Miss Brittany Clark is the owner of the dog, White with light tan circles. She's a pit bull. Her father, Bart Clark, lives on Blueberry Circle. Katie and I spoke, Select Board Katie Johnson, Applin, and I spoke with Mr. Clark on Wednesday the 9th. He said that he would let her know that we needed to deal with this issue. I also contacted Windham County Humane Society, Annie Goen, on the same day. She said she had an email address and was going to make a text to contact Miss Clark on our behalf. As of today, I have not heard from Miss Clark. This was the dog-on-dog attack. Dover Animal Control Officer reported that this is a serious issue and that Miss Clark would need to be issued a violation of the Newfane Dog Ordinance citation. A one-time given warning of a vicious animal is the second time somebody could actually take her dog. The one exception is Miss Clark could decide to have her dog trained and receive a graduation certificate. This would enable her to keep the dog. Sheriff Mark Anderson will be attending the June 21st Select Board meeting to discuss the regional animal control program that will begin July 1st. I spoke with the attorney at VLCT regarding if sharing the VLCT training with the public would be allowed. This information is provided only to the PACIF municipal members.
Can you just back up
Yep.
again? So my understanding with this, with the dog, one-time given type warning, that if it happened again, then they would take the dog.
It actually has to be a documented reporting, which means when I checked with Vermont State Police, there at this point had not been any documentation. By issuing a certificate of municipal violation, it would be a documented event, which we
Should do.
should follow up and do.
Okay.
So the woman that we're talking about, the owner, does not necessarily live in this area, but you know of a relative that does, and perhaps she was here visiting.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can send it on to her on behalf of her father?
I believe you could, because that's the known address where the occurrence happened. From my understanding with the conversation I had with Dover Animal Control, if she was on site at the time of the incident, we can ticket her. If she left the dog in her father's care at that residence, then we would ticket him because he was actually in control of and responsible for the actions of the animal.
Yes.
So it's complicated because she's not a resident.
Correct.
So what do you think about, what do you think about sending a letter to the father, a written letter to,
I think that's what we have to do, so we have a documentation.
because I checked around and I couldn't find her
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have a couple of people I might be able to contact, but I think
We-
that would be the first thing that we need to do.
Juanetta and I also tried to call where her father thought she was a resident to see if there was a record of rabies with that town, and there was no licensing. So it's kind of convoluted. We don't really have a whole lot to go on as
Yeah.
far as her.
So if we don't have a policy, we should have this in policy, how do we handle this? But right now, I would
Just send out a
recommend,
letter,
I make a motion that we send a letter to the father,
the owner of the
the
property.
owner of the property, where she may have been visiting, residing, whatever.
Is there a second?
I second.
Do you want that a certified letter?
We won't be under contract with the sheriff's office, right? Until,
Until July 1st.
to what?
Till July 1st.
July 1st, okay. So certified.
Yeah, probably certified. Any further discussion?
I had a question. Let me
Yes.
try to remember what it was. Going forward, should we have some clarification in the language in the dog notice? Is that something that we
That's what I
can,
just said, yeah, we should add it
Okay.
as a policy as we work through this problem.
what
Uh,
was I gonna ask?
The town could have that, but under contract with Windham County Humane Society as regional animal control officer, they'll have their own policy.
Okay.
As an ordinance to follow. So there may be a conflict there.
Mhm.
We can certainly approach that question tonight with Sheriff Anderson to see if,
How they would handle it.
Yes.
Okay.
I remember my question finally. Did Annie go and provide any up-to-date information about the rabies vaccine? When was the
I
dog?
had no communication with her since we spoke on the 9th.
Oh,
And I attempted to contact her today with no results.
okay.
Anything further on that? All those in favor of the motion to send a certified letter to the property owner regarding the dog?
Aye.
Aye. And the ayes have it. Are there any other questions on the rest of Juaneta's report?
Was there something else that one that I had too, a memo that you wanted to discuss, or where does that come in?
The memo to the
Committee?
organizations and the committee members.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just included it to show you that I had made another attempt, and there is some documentation of compliance. Planning Commission visits regularly. Jay does appear every time that we have a meeting.
mhm.
I think there was one other one. Oh, regional animal control, which will be starting in a few weeks.
So this was a follow-up to ask for reports to the select board on a regular basis. And I don't know, does it say in here quarterly, right? Every 3 months and annually. And we're talking about the animal control officer, which is now going to be a contract with the sheriff's development review board, health officer, highway department, which Jay regularly attends, listers, planning commission. We usually get regular updates on that. Bank recons and auditing. Sierra's been in.
Sierra does the monthly bank reconciliations, and I print the reports for you.
Right, but I think she's been here before too, to report, or maybe was it the
I think she
original?
came with the listers once.
No,
Yeah,
that was,
No, she
No.
came for the interview.
Oh.
Sierra
yeah,
came for
she's
the
only been for an
interview.
interview.
okay, Okay. So then the town clerk, Carol, should be reporting to us. Treasurer, which we get on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Not regularly.
The treasurer?
Yeah, she's sporadic. She's not consistent. She doesn't like to.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get our financial reported to us, but you're saying coming to the board in front of the public?
Correct.
Okay.
Hello.
William?
Hello?
Hi, Gloria.
Hi. I'm curious about why you say that the town clerk should report to you. The town clerk is not obligated to report to the select board. She's an independently elected official.
We are requesting that people come in and just give us an update about what is going on within their departments, just so that we have a full picture of what's going on in the town. It's not to oversee her job. It's not to,
Okay.
it's
That's,
just information.
yeah, that was my concern.
Yeah, it's not reporting to, it's giving us a report of what's going on, keeping us informed.
You mean like she's doing her job? Anyway, the town clerk has X number of things to do. You're welcome to read that. Carol will probably very gladly come in, but there are just certain things that a town clerk does. And I'm not sure why reporting on it every few months would be necessary.
It might help for the public to understand what she does do, so that if they have a question, they would know who to contact. Just keeping people apprised.
Okay. Thank you.
Williamsville Hall, and then zoning. Is there anybody else?
I don't think so.
Does Union Hall have to report, or is that
No,
separate?
that's the village.
That's the village green up day or any other committees.
Any other committees are always welcome to come in and report.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a point about the zoning.
Yes.
That's not necessarily, is my understanding, unless it's Merle.
Merle we're talking about.
Merle, that's Merle.
Because DRB or planning, yeah. It's Merle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think of any other ones?
Anything further on the administrative assistance report? Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Second?
I make a second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Moving on, now we have Ken Estey for the Planning Commission Town Plan List of Projects and Updates.
Yes.
Welcome, good to
thank
have
you.
you.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, as chair of the planning commission, I have the extraordinary honor to report back to the select board. We had a great special meeting on last Thursday, in which we advanced the cause of the 3 townwide meetings. And while we're waiting for 2 other commissioners to confirm dates, we're thinking that the first of the 3 would be a Zoom-based meeting in July. The second meeting would be in person, and the third meeting would be in person. What we're doing is taking the distillation of the town plan, which we feel comes in 4 different categories: economics, sustainability, housing, community building, and transportation. And within those 4 categories are other goals and policy recommendations and so on. What we're trying to do is use these townwide meetings to sort of update and to bring into the public, ideas that have emerged since the town plan was completed in 2018, thanks to Angela's work as well, who was a member of the planning commission at that time. And so the goal, of course, is that with the prospect, the happy prospect, or may we even say certainty of American Rescue Plan Act money, as well as other kinds of state funding, possibly grants and other mechanisms of financial gain here in Newfane, that we hope that we can, and it's our goal, to bring to you, the select board, the results of the deliberation in these 3 meetings. Now, I would like to say that the amount of effort and work that will go into successfully implementing these 3 townwide meetings will be considerable. And I just want to make an appeal to the select board and to the public that it's all hands on deck. Happily, many hands make it the work light.
Yes.
So we can do this. We had, like I said, we had a great special meeting on last Thursday, lots of great ideas. And we certainly solicit, welcome, and encourage the public to be involved in helping the meetings to occur, even as we're all there in the meetings talking about really exciting ideas for the future of Newfane. So that's what we did. And in fact, this coming Thursday, we'll have a regular meeting of the Planning Commission, and everybody is welcome. We will be here. We will also be on Zoom, and people who would like to attend and volunteer their energies, their ideas, and their hands and feet, by all means, and voices.
What time is the meeting?
Thank you. That meeting will be at 6, and I do believe by 6:20, 6:30, we will begin that part of the meeting in earnest. And we've scheduled about an hour for that part of the meeting. And I do believe we'll be having other special meetings. There's no question we'll be having more special meetings, which will occur on the off Thursdays and other times as warned. So, yes.
So you've been putting your meetings on the website. So for everybody, if they're looking for meeting information, Zoom links for your committee,
Yes.
it's there.
Yes.
I found it was great.
Yes, it's the Zoom link is posted on the agenda, and the Zoom link is also in a different part of the website where it talks about meeting schedules, and so it's also there. So, yes.
Thank you so much for the update. That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're excited about this.
So there's a time for everyone to have a voice.
Yes, this is, and also a time for everyone to contribute to having that voice, you know, so in the preparation and in the implementation and in the actual meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for that? Now we are going to go to the scheduled members of the public. I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Anthony French. Thanks for coming. Come right on up here.
Where would you like me to stand?
Well, he's gonna,
That's the mic right there.
Yeah, right there. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. So I'm here to discuss, and I apologize for having my back to everybody, discuss the town contract that we offer. So the state police currently has a town contract with the town of Newfane. This past fiscal year, it was $10,000, which equates to about 2.5 hours a week. Our current hourly rate is $73 an hour and change. For the next fiscal year, if you choose to continue, the hourly rate will increase about $3 an hour to $77.41. The patrolling that we do, it's the same patrolling that we would do normally. So it's stopping cars, responding to complaints, investigating complaints. If there's a case that we would end up at court with, whether it be traffic court or criminal court, that follow-up is done on our time. That's not billed to the town. And that's how it's always been. With the next fiscal year, I understand the town has increased the amount to $12,500. That would increase with us, even though our rate increased, that would be just over 3 hours a week for the state police.
I'm sorry, was it 3 hours?
3 hours.
Okay.
It's 3.1.
Yeah. I think we came up with 12.5, Angela, ladies, in our budget, right? Yes. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
I think One of the biggest things that we've hired you for was to be in around the back roads, to be mindful of, any break-ins or other things like that. And then I don't think we're necessarily looking for you to stop people for speeding unless they're or like crazy speeding or whatever, but, use your own judgment. But I think that's kind of like what we've talked about in the past. These ladies haven't been on the board before. So, Angela, what do you think as far as what I'm saying here?
I think that, and also I noticed, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the speeding going on through the villages in the town and
Yes.
not seeing a huge presence. So.
Yes. Staffing is down in every law enforcement agency in the country. So, for us to be everywhere all the time, it's very difficult. We have over 30 towns in our patrol area. The 2.5 hours a week that we're dedicated here isn't a lot.
Yeah.
So, it comes and goes. We do fortunately have someone that lives in the area. So, you're lucky you get an extra little bit of coverage. I will throw out a plug that I have a trooper that's looking for an apartment. If anybody has one, if you want more coverage, reach out to me. We do what we can with what we have.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
So we understand it. When we reached out last year about police reform, that was really what every town responded with: is we'd like to see you more. We'd like to be able to be out there more.
Yeah. Our budget's been this way for many years, so it's, limited. So I think that's what we've decided, was that if you're not putting your efforts on just getting into the back roads, not necessarily speeding. We're working on signage and to make people aware to slow down. In small villages, there's people and kids playing, walking, etc. So I think we went with you guys versus the sheriffs just because they closed down at like 8:00, I believe, the sheriff's department. I think Mark is probably.
Yeah, he's on next.
Yeah. That was the other thing, is that you guys were there 24 hours, 7 days a week.
So we're on call after hours overnight. So we're on most of the night, but we're on call some of the hours. But we do respond if there's an emergency need for us to come out and respond. We do that.
I'm curious, does the emergency need cut into the hours per week? Like if there's a horrible fatal car accident or something like that?
No.
Okay.
So when we schedule a trooper to patrol the town, that's set aside. If something comes in that involves more time, that's just comes back on us. If there's more people that need to respond, 2-3 troopers, then that's on us.
I think we're all set.
Any other further questions for Lieutenant?
I don't.
I'll hang out till Mark.
Yeah, thanks for all
So do we make a motion anyway, right?
We have Mark Anderson to do his, and then we'll make a motion.
Is he presenting for the
I believe he's doing both their contract and then the
Okay.
animal control issue.
Okay.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Good evening, Mark Anderson. How are you, Sheriff?
I am well, thank you.
Have him speak closer to the mic.
Oh, yeah. You might have to speak up a little bit louder. We're going over the law enforcement contracts for the town.
I will do my best. I'm not sure how much I can control the volume there.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's no rates in here. Huh? There's no rates in here? One minute?
Would you like to present to us what your proposal is? Because we don't see any rates.
Begins July 21st, that
Yeah,
2021.
so I apologize for that. When we were asked to send a copy, we weren't sure what we budgeted for, so we didn't want to put anything in. Each year we send out our rates about November, and I'm sure that that's been lost in the shuffle since then. So our current rates are $52 an hour. That is for towns that contract for anything less than 2,000 hours per year. If you contract for 2,000 hours or more, we have a reduced rate because we can realize some efficiencies in our operations. Just to back up real quick, I'm Mark Anderson, I'm the Sheriff of Windham County. My department is, by statute, we're required to provide civil service to civil process, which is court papers issued by the civil court. Sometimes they're issued by the family court. We also provide prisoner transportation of people in the custody of the state of Vermont to the court, and then from the court back to the state. What people know us for is often what we are not responsible for providing, which is many of the contract services we do. So to that point, we provide policing through contracts. It's the only way that we're funded. We receive no tax funding for it. Policing provides no, I'm sorry, taxes provide no funding for cruisers. It provides no funding for gas. It provides none of the insurances. So that's why we have a contract. And sometimes people confuse our responsibilities with other entities in the state. So the reason why we do contract is to provide the service. The reason why we provide the service is because frequently towns come to us saying we're not getting quite what we're looking for. Whatever Newfane's goals are or are not, part of our approach is to be able to develop the contract towards your needs. In years past, there's been issues around patrols on back roads, traffic calming efforts within the villages in South Newfane and Williamsville and in the Newfane village. My agency recently had a contract with the village of Newfane, though it was indicated to us that wasn't going to continue for a variety of reasons related to the operations of the village. So with that said, we haven't really had a presence in Newfane other than the physical location of our office in Newfane. The services provided by the state police account for both the emergency and non-emergency services the town receives, in addition to the contract that you're paying to the state police. My office also provides a 24-hour dispatch operation that's also done through contracts. We provide 24-hour coverage to the state of Vermont to a variety of different entities, and basically we customize the service to what the entity needs. And since I have a calculator, I heard you say it's $12,500. So that would be about 240 hours a year, which would come out to about 4.6 hours a week.
And what are your hours of operation?
Generally speaking, it's hard to say that there's hours of operation because unlike municipal or state entities, we don't have fixed budget or personnel slots. So technically speaking, operate 24 hours. We work with most of our towns to identify what the best hours for the town given their budget is. Most towns choose sometime between 6 in the morning and 10 p.m. Another thing I will note is that contracting with my office does not alleviate the town of any of the services from the Vermont State Police. Lieutenant French and I work together to make sure that the town always has police coverage. But what this allows is for you to target specific needs and target it with money contributed by your town through your contract.
What do you guys think?
Okay.
What do you guys think as far as services? And do we have anything in the budget for it?
Currently, are we only using the
Currently, we only have the state police.
state police? Okay.
Sheriff, what is that name?
Anderson.
Anderson, do you give tickets out for traffic violations?
Yes, I mean, among a variety of other things. certainly it's no different than the abilities that the state police have.
And how would that work? Does it come to the town?
It would. So Vermont law allows for municipal ordinance violations, speed violations, things such as one-way streets. I can't go into all of them off the top of my head, but a variety of violations that the money is returned to the town.
Gosh. I'm almost thinking because everyone's speeding.
Mhm.
That, we should look at it.
Increase coverage to
Yeah.
focus on that.
If we have it in our budget.
Mhm.
I
Well,
mean,
our budget, we have a budget of 12,500 to spend towards.
that's it.
That's all we have for law
So it
enforcement.
means splitting that.
Splitting it
amongst-
between the both of them.
Yeah, or just one. Right?
Well, Vermont State Police is going to come no matter
Anyway.
what.
Right.
I feel like I'm of the opinion that it's kind of silly not to have the people who are in our town
Yeah.
here. But
And it looks like they could provide more hours per week
At a lower rate.
at a lower rate. And you'd be able to go out onto, way out on Dover Road, back in South Newfane and Williamsville, and not just be right on Route 30.
Yes.
Because I think that's where we need to see a lot more presence, because people don't see law enforcement out there.
I think we should try it.
Is there anything further in your presentation you'd like to share with us, Sheriff?
Specific to town law enforcement, or are we going to dive into animal control yet?
Well, we're going to finish this first, and then we'll keep you on for that.
Great. So, no, I think that pretty much covers the high points. I know we've talked with this board before. We're happy to support the town anyway, regardless of its decision.
So 6 to 10 p.m.
so do we have any, is that just as you see fit for patrolling? How does that?
I don't know if we-
Sorry, Sheriff Anderson. Do you make your own schedule for the patrolling? Or do we have to tell you about that? I'm new, I apologize.
No problem. I'm happy to educate. So we do develop the schedule, but that's also with input of the town. So as a general course of business, I have supervisors who look at the various needs of towns and try to spread it amongst everybody. So for example, usually in ski season during Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, most towns want to see coverage on Route 30 if you're in the West River Valley. So we understand that, and what we work to do is create a perception amongst all the towns that we are present in their town during those target times. If you were to say, I absolutely need somebody tomorrow at 3 p.m., we can work on getting somebody there at 3 p.m. But part of the balance that we create is that we take numerous towns. We contract with about a dozen. We take contracts with numerous towns and basically say, what are your goals and how can we make everything work symbiotically? So some towns have budgets of 10,000, some of 20, some of 80. And so to that point, we're able to target the goals of the town with basically a mutual understanding of what you have and what we can do.
Great. Ken Estey has a question.
Yeah, I guess I would just address my point to the select board that it's not only a matter of cost, although as a taxpayer, I'm very attentive to my tax bill. At the same time, other considerations such as the type of training that the sheriff's office versus the state police bring to the public, I would say, it would be incumbent upon the select board really to, and all of Newfane, what are the policies on fair and impartial policing, with respect to patrolling? Can we expect the same level of professionalism? Can we also be mindful too that sheriff's offices in Vermont have typically been a little less accountable over time? in a way that the Vermont State Police has an accountability structure built in through the state as opposed to the county. The other factor too is, you're talking about elected officials. Sheriffs are elected and such. The Vermont State Police, not so. So I'm not per se making a recommendation one way or the other, but I just would want to urge on the select board that it seems like it's not only a matter of cost, but that there are other factors that ought to be considered when we think about who we want to be in a position of authority here in Newfane.
Thank you.
So I guess the question, one thing that when Ken was talking about accountability, what is your professional accountability for any issues that may arise as a concern with your staff?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So first off, my office has maintained internal investigation policy for a number of years. Anybody who wants to file a complaint, they can do so anonymously or even by identifying themselves. If they identify themselves, it helps us investigate. That comes right to my captain. He's my second in command, who ultimately investigates them. The chiefs and sheriffs have been working to develop a statewide internal affairs team. So if I believe I have something in which we either feel that we have a conflict of interest to be able to make an assessment on, or if our state's attorney believes we have a conflict of interest to make an assessment on, or if it just seems that best practice would be to pull resources from outside of Windham County, we have that resource now available. The other thing, in the state of Vermont, the Vermont Criminal Justice Council is the oversight body for training, policy, model policy development, as well as for professional regulation. And so that oversees all of Vermont law enforcement, including the chiefs, the sheriffs, and the state police. The Professional Regulation Board is governed by Act 56, which I believe is from the 2016 session, which ultimately is to take a body that's removed from any one entity and allow them to investigate. This year, I worked with the council to help lobby for staffing a professional investigator as well as an attorney who can help manage that process. So we've done a lot around professional regulation just in the last year. And to the point of fair and impartial policing, my department, while I was still a deputy, actually, we were actually pioneering the way around. It was before it was called fair and impartial policing, but we've been working on fair and impartial policing practices since about 2007. That's been a regular practice. Currently, fair and impartial policing standards are governed by the Criminal Justice Council. So what you see at the Windham County Sheriff's Office is also required at the state police. From the council's perspective. And then the final piece I also offer is that our contract with the town, we provide the town a 30-day notice. There doesn't have to be a reason. You can just say, we're done. And so if you felt that I was treating you unfairly, improperly, if I was acting under color of law, 30 days and you're out. We bill monthly, so you're not even holding a bag, if you will.
Great, thank you.
So we can make a motion, right?
Right.
Yes, Tom, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Is there a opportunity to find an additional 12.5 in the budget to contract with the sheriffs and the state police, where we would get more than double the coverage? Possibly Sheriff Anderson and Lieutenant French could coordinate so that you're not both in town on the same days. But this is law enforcement. We've had a rash of home invasions and break-ins in the rural sections of town, some with people home, which is a much more severe penalty and risk for everyone. I think that with the amount of money that we donate or we allocate to some of the other projects, 12.5 is a small amount of money to pull from Peter to help Sheriff Anderson and French protect us.
Right.
what is it, 12.5?
That is something we could ask Melissa and see if we can find it. We can contract with either agency after July 1, correct?
Yes.
Yes? Is the same with you, Mark? I'm sorry, Sheriff Anderson.
Mark's okay. I'm a first name. Yes, we'd be able to contract. I mean, my office is flexible on when we could contract. We could start today if you asked me to send you a contract. In fact, if you sign the contract I sent over with the numbers filled in, then we could contract. So to July 1, we tend to follow the fiscal year for our contracts because it allows us to do contract maintenance at the same time as our fiscal year. We do generally do 1-year contracts. So it would end June 30th, which I believe is in line with the town. And certainly if the town said they wanted to enter or entertain a contract July 1st, we'd be happy to deal with that as well.
Great. So what we can do is make a motion. Gloria, yes?
Well, I wonder about the idea of pulling money from one, that's a town vote, our budget vote. So I'd really check very carefully to make sure that that's part of the deal that could happen with the select board, because you know, we can't just suddenly take it from one category and put it in another. At least that's my memory of it.
I think we would have Melissa do the research.
Is there a general fund that can be used for?
We'll have to check in with our treasurer.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. I think we probably should have a special meeting to look at the budget.
Yeah.
And to have a larger discussion about, is that where we want to spend our money? It's not
Exactly.
It's not like we're rolling in dough here, so. There are
Right.
2 people wanting to talk.
Yes.
Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Yes. Do I need to stand there?
You should stand.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Brenda Siegel, Newfane. I don't know if I need to say that, but I just want to say that if there's been a rash of more home invasions, then I would say that personally, as someone who works on the overdose crisis around the state, that we might have a bigger problem than we think we do here, and that maybe we need to do a little more figuring out what services are lacking for the people who are struggling, because that's the thing that will stop the home invasions. While we want the police presence when they happen, if we actually want to solve the problem, we're going to need to solve what the symptom is. And I would offer that usually where we see these increases around the state, especially in the rural communities, it has to do with the overdose crisis. And so I really think we need to look into that a little bit more in my experience. I also just want to say, as someone driving back and forth through town, I'm not sure we want people to stop in our community. We want them to stop at our limited restaurants and in our stores and be bringing more people here. And some people really are uncomfortable with police presence. And though I was part of the interview process that encouraged for Mark Anderson to be the sheriff, and this is limited time for both services, I think we do have to consider whether or not we become less welcoming for people who are very uncomfortable with police presence. And I don't think it should be a way for us to raise money for our community or for our town to ticket people, because usually that most deeply impacts the lowest income people in our community and the moderate income people in our community. So I think we should probably spend a little, step back a little bit and spend a little bit more time investigating what the best course of action would be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Was there somebody else that had their hand raised? Do you want? No? Okay.
No.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I
And
ran
then
the stats.
this gentleman,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna let him speak real quick and then let you go next. Maybe we can solve all
Yeah,
the.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't know.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Joseph Runge, and it really struck me that, I mean, what do you think is more uncomfortable of an experience? Like, seeing a police cruiser doing a speed trap? What's more uncomfortable, passing a cop doing a speed trap, or having a breaking and entering into your home in the middle of the night, when maybe you're alone or you have children? I mean, what's gonna cause more discomfort, knowing that you always have to lock your doors, maybe you have to invest in a security system. You know, that's one of the nice things about living in a small homogeneous town like that, is that we really don't have to worry about home invasions, okay? So, you know, nobody likes getting pulled over by a cop, for sure. I've had it done. Never pleasant. I mean, no offense. You know what I mean?
Always in a
But I
hurry.
mean, I would take 50 stops by a policeman over a single home invasion in my house.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is that if we want to stop that, we have to do it by actually solving the problem. That's all I'm saying. And this is not offensive either. Sorry.
That's okay.
Dan?
Dan, I can't see Dan back there. Dan, welcome.
I was just gonna reinforce what Brenda was saying. I think Brenda wasn't saying that you shouldn't have.
You're supposed to come here. Sorry. You're being
Thank you. Hi, Dan.
I just wanted to echo what Brenda said. If indeed we're having home invasions, and it's quite likely this opioid epidemic we're not immune from that. And when people are in the throes of it, they do desperate and foolish and dangerous things. So I don't think Brenda is saying anything about home invasions not being taken care of. And it's not an either or situation. We need to deal with home invasions when they happen. But if people are doing this, we need to figure out how to get them treatment, how to get them off the street where they're having to get a fix and having to break into somebody's house to do it. They're so desperate, they're dangerous. So I would just like echo, and that takes more thought and careful thinking, but it will yield us more in the long run.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan.
A follow-up real quick,
Yes, real quick.
I understand about the root cause of these break-ins, but when you're waking up from a sound sleep, your wife is laying next to you, your children in the next room, it's a much more dangerous situation than trying to re-educate and help this person out of their drug addiction. Because that family man, that woman alone by herself is going to defend themselves. And that is why home invasion is a much more serious crime than just burglary when no one's home, because you're putting life at risk. Police officers, I think, I've got a lot of cops in the family, and they all agree with that. So that's just try to cure the problem, yes, but at the same time, the police presence will deter these young people or even organized groups that are trying to break the law.
Thank you, Tom. Excuse me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry.
I'll let you know. I'm gonna have Lieutenant French come up and answer some of the things that were said, and then we will continue.
Thank you. So I asked one of my admin to run the stats from last July 1st until now, just to get an idea of what we're looking at for cases in case this discussion came up. So just so everyone's aware, although I appreciate the push for more law enforcement, there's not a rash of home invasions in the area. There's been 3 burglaries since July 1st of last year in the area. So there's not a huge problem. I think there was 1 vandalism, which we made an arrest on, and 6 other thefts that I saw.
Yep.
So
I had a
just
cousin.
wanted to throw that out.
Is that an increase over what we've had in the past?
I didn't run stats.
Yeah, for 10 years.
It really comes and goes in cycles.
Yeah.
So, you'll get a rash or something going on by someone in an area that they either get caught or they move on, and then it goes away, and then somebody else will come in at some point in some town. So currently there's not a huge issue. I just wanted to make sure that everyone watching and everyone here tonight doesn't think that someone's going to break into their house in the middle of the night.
So, and do we legally have the right to defend ourselves with a gun?
That's a very challenging situation. As a last resort, you do have rights. There are laws that protect you for protecting yourself.
Not them running away, but them coming at you.
as a last resort.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, everyone's entitled to protecting themselves.
So we have the Second Amendment.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. It's a very, very tricky situation.
Yes. Thank you. We have someone new come on up and speak. This is Deb. Hi, Deb. Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
I'm Deborah Luskin from Grimes Hill Road, and listening to this discussion, which is, you know, there, we have opioid, a terrible opioid situation. We have had 3 home invasions this last year, all terrible, but the most dangerous thing any of us does is get behind the wheel of a car. And I was really, I urge you to reconsider speed control. I understand that on Route 30 it could be a real deterrent to people stopping here. I live on Grimes Hill Road, which has become a speedway.
Yeah.
And people have been hurt. We've had some terrible accidents there that remarkably people walked away from, but they all by themselves at 70 miles an hour in their car. So I think people have really slowed down in the villages because we've been consistent in doing that. But there are 4 roads in town that are known speedways and are terrible accidents waiting to happen. We are all in cars much more than there are home invasions in our town. I'd like you to consider that, and I'd like you to think that we don't have a lot of money. I would hate to see us spend what little money by doubling a police budget for a pretty safe place. I think there's been some fear mongering here, and I'm saddened by that. It's infective. It's infectious. So whoever you go with, I hope you get some thought about what it is we can get for the very modest sum that we have, and everybody in Newfane who is over 16 drives a car. That's all.
Thank you so much. Yep, we have time for a few more comments and then we gotta get moving on our agenda.
You know, the thing with, it's kind of a bad analogy, I think, to compare driving a car and that kind of danger. When you're behind the wheel of a car, you can set your own risk profile. You can decide if you're gonna speed when you're driving. You can decide if you're gonna drive in bad weather conditions. You can decide if you're gonna drive drunk or under the influence of alcohol. You can decide whether you're texting and driving. You've got all these options so you can calibrate your risk profile to be as safe or unsafe as you want to be, okay? For better or for worse. Unfortunately, you have no control over who's gonna break into your house, who's gonna be patrolling the neighborhood, and who's going to mark your house as one that's gonna be a good one to break in, you know? Maybe you can put up like one of those security signs on the outside to deter them, but at the end of the day, you have no control over like what drugged out freak wants to break into your house, but you can control how it is you drive.
I would just like to point out that you also have no control over who else is on the road, because the number of times I have been going up Depot Road and I'm going the speed limit and people will go around me when it's a double line. That is equally.
It's a double reward, because the police presence, the increased police presence is not only for home invasions. They're not there specifically. They're also there deterring and calming traffic.
Ken, you had your hand up, then Brenda, and I don't know your name.
No, Mark.
Nice to meet you. And then we need to move on.
Yeah, Ken Estey, with all due respect to a fellow member of the public sitting next to me, I just want to take public issue with the ascription of a drugged out freak. I find that deeply problematic. And I think that Brenda and Dan ably characterized the systemic situation we're facing. And if it were a member of my family, forbid the thought, I wouldn't want even my own member of my family, nor your families, to be considered a drugged out freak. So I just wanted to call that to the public's attention.
Thank you. Brenda?
I want to just address that as well. Forgive me if I tear up. I have lost my brother and my nephew, who I helped raise, to the overdose crisis. Neither of them were drugged out freaks. Both of them had severe mental illness and struggled immensely to get the help they needed inside of our state and were not able. So I deeply hope that we can use different language when we're talking about people with the overdose crisis. Because when you talk about people who are struggling that way, then they are not going to raise their hand and get the help they need, so they are not invading our homes and doing the other things that they're desperate to do because of a physical dependence on an opioid.
I'm not gonna.
And so I'm talking, and I want to be really clear to both of the law enforcement officers here that that I did not mean that we should not address that. And of course, if we're talking about speeding on back roads that are not being addressed, we absolutely should. But I'm only saying that if it has increased, we might want to look into services in a compassionate way so that we can stop the problem that affects every member of our community. And I'm just going to end by saying that it doesn't just impact the person who's struggling with the overdose crisis. Every member of their family is impacted, and it impacts our community, it impacts our tax base, and it impacts everything that we depend on in this state. And so all I'm asking is that we find a way to solve the problem rather than perpetuate it in any way. And part of perpetuating it is that kind of stigma that really is both disgusting and traumatizing for families like mine.
Thank you, Brenda.
Mel Martin, Pound Road, Newfane. I just want to say that if you can imagine the number of roads in Newfane, back roads, side roads, if you know the hours in a day and the days in the week, and we're talking about having police presence so pervasive that you could actually prevent, discourage people from breaking in. Do you have any concept, any idea of how many hundreds of hours in 1 week you would need, how many dozens of vehicles you would need based on the police presence to have any impact on one individual who decides that he wants to break in? We couldn't afford it. If you tried it, it wouldn't work.
Guaranteed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, bringing it back to the board, we have 2 contracts on the table. Is there a motion to accept one or the other? And we can talk to Melissa about other funds at a later meeting.
I feel at a disadvantage if I really just don't know the history of the difference between the 2 different services.
Or what, at some point it was stopped with the sheriff's department, but I don't know why either, because
Well, I think it was primarily because we thought that their coverage wasn't as complete as we needed it to be. I think that was the bigger, right,
I believe so.
Angela?
I believe so, but it's been the state police as long as I've been on the board.
Yeah, which has been about a couple, 2 or 3 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So prior to that, we did have the sheriffs. Mike Fitzpatrick had always been a big supporter of having the sheriff, not the sheriff's, but the state police, because he felt that they were on the back roads more. So I think Sheriff Anderson's team has gotten bigger, but we're still looking at just a few hours a week.
I know, either way.
And even if we combine it, it's going to be like 10 hours a week. So 10 11 hours, unless we.
And our contract ends on June 30th. So and we don't have another meeting until.
how many of our dirt roads are through roads?
Really?
No, it's not very many. That's my point. We have a lot more dead end roads than we do.
He knows how many miles of roads we have.
Over 600 miles.
600 miles?
I was thinking about like Parish Hill, the Newfane
and each
Timpson
agency
Hill,
knows,
like
the
Dover.
We have 67 miles.
Okay.
67?
But how many of them are through roads where traffic actually goes whizzing through because it's a cut through. That's my point.
Yeah.
Probably less than a third.
Right. Those are the roads
So
that
what's
need
your
to be,
point?
that's
Yes.
where the concentration needs to be, because people are not on, we see traffic never on my road. It's not a through road.
Yeah,
Ever.
South Wordsboro, Dover Road.
Right.
Grimes Hill Road, which is part, of Dover, right?
Newfane Hill to Timpson Hill,
Mhm.
Parish Hill, the loop there, people-
So you're trying to clarify which roads we should
which
concentrate
back
on?
roads, the dirt roads that need.
Well, we can always pinpoint that with the agency that we choose, correct?
Right.
After we decide which contract the town should take.
Should we look at the budget and see if there's any movement to be able to have both of them?
I think that's what we had talked about to have Melissa look into, but we should probably.
And we have time.
I would say that we make a choice on the one that we'd like to go with, and then have a discussion after we talk with Melissa about whether or not we want to spend more money on policing. Based on the information that was just given us on the number of incidents there have been in the last year, I'm not hearing a need to increase. I understand how terrifying these experiences are when they happen.
That's why we have insurance.
That's why we
Largely,
have guns.
and guns.
That's why I lock my doors. So I would recommend, if we need to make a decision, we make a decision on which one we want to go forward with, and then we hold any other discussions until we can do a little bit more research, both in terms of our finances and to clarify if we really do need a second, if we do need more policing, and if not, to have some time to think about that.
Are you gonna make a motion?
Is there a motion for either the Windham County Sheriff's Office or the Vermont State Police from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022?
I don't feel educated enough to have an opinion on one versus the other.
And I would agree with that. I need more information.
So what do the two of you think? Have you
Well,
been
I like
satisfied
the
to this
idea
year?
of choosing one and then adding another. But-
No guarantee that we'd add another one, though.
Right.
No guarantee that A, that we have the money, or B, that we would all agree to do that. So
Mhm.
I think we have to go with the one that we definitely want, at least at this moment in
I
time.
don't know.
Well, what would help us know?
Well, the rate, we could go with the sheriff's and have a lower rate, which would afford us more money if we chose to go with a second.
It would be an extra hour and a half a week, or slightly more than.
Let's go with the sheriff's. I make a motion to go with the
You
sheriff's.
want to try it?
Is there a second?
I'm struggling only because I feel like I'm making a decision on something I really don't know anything about. But I understand we have to, so.
Or we could possibly hold a special select board meeting on the 28th, and that gives us the rest of this week to
mull it over,
get some information from Melissa, and everybody can look into the contracts and decide.
Okay, and talk to
I make a
people.
motion that we wait and I
Won't
have
be here.
set that on
You
the
will not
table
be here.
for
I will not be here.
special meeting.
Katie will not be here.
Are you available the 29th?
I'm sorry, I'm
Gone
leaving-
all week?
Leaving for the week
When are you leaving?
on Monday, next Monday.
Is anybody available Friday for an hour, half an hour?
I'll be out of town. I'm going away tomorrow. Why don't we go ahead with the sheriff?
So Shelley made a
There's
motion. Shelley made a motion. We need a second on Shelley's motion to go with the sheriff's department.
Let me just finish what I was gonna say, but I'm not making the motion yet. I would suggest that we go ahead with the sheriff if upon further consideration, we decide we think we want to switch our decision. Mark made it very clear that we have that ability to.
Yeah,
switch
there's a
things
motion
up.
on the table, so
Yeah,
we can give him 30-day notice.
Yeah.
So let's go with the sheriff's department.
Is there a second to the sheriff's department motion?
I second. No, I will.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye for the Windham County Sheriff's Department.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes
Okay.
have it. Did Lieutenant French leave?
I believe so.
He must have left.
You want him to come back?
Yes, please. Congratulations, Sheriff Anderson.
Yay.
And
Dog contract.
we will be
We
in.
can't hear you, you're on mute.
I'm not used to that. Thank you, and I look forward to working with the town.
And Juanetta will be in touch for a contract.
Great.
For us to sign. And when we get that contract, would everybody be okay for me to sign on behalf of as a
Yes.
duly
Yes.
authorized agent?
We'll give you authorization to
You
sign
have to
for
make a
us.
motion to
Can I have a
authorize.
motion?
Oh, I make a motion to have Angela sign the contract for us.
I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Lieutenant French, we really appreciate you coming, and the board has chosen to go with the Windham County Sheriff's Department, but if we do, for some reason, would like to have extra policing, we will be in touch.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here and all of
Thank
your
you.
hard work.
Thank you for your time.
And Mr. Estey,
Yeah,
I thought you had left.
I
Your
did for a
chair.
moment. Oh, yeah, that's my chair, right?
You would like to speak?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, one moment. Thank you for being here, Mark.
We have to go back to the dog
Animal
thing.
control.
Oh, that's
We
right.
still haven't done that.
Oh, gosh, we've been talking about so much. We'll be right with you, Ken. Sorry. Can you talk about the Humane Society with us, please?
Oh,
More specifically, the Regional Animal Control Officer Program,
yeah.
Yes.
because I have nothing to say about the Humane Society other than we work with them as an organization. And I hope that the town does too, because they provide a great service. So yeah, I apologize. I was hoping that I'd actually have the memorandum of understanding for tonight's meeting. Due to the short nature of time from town meetings for many towns in Windham County, having several of them having had their town meetings in May, combined with the demand on attorneys over the last 2 months has made it difficult for that to make it through the final drafting stage. I spoke with my attorney last week to see if we could get it out the door for today. They're going to make their best effort, but it's not here yet. So I'm sure I will be back before the board to present the final memorandum of understanding. For the members of the public who aren't aware, or new board members, or anyone else who isn't aware, what we're looking to do is provide a slightly different form of service than what we've been traditionally providing through the law enforcement means. About 10 years ago, the Sheriff's Department provided animal control to the towns that we provide law enforcement contracts with. And what we found frequently occurring is that animal control issues ended up drawing law enforcement resources. And so when a law enforcement issue occurs, it would pull the law enforcement resources. When a law enforcement issue occurred, it pulled animal control resources. And so we run into this issue of limited resources. The point of the program is to provide a trained animal control officer. She's a civilian officer who's specifically trained in handling animals, who will provide animal control abilities to the town of Newfane. The hard part with this is that the town of Newfane doesn't have an animal control problem in the same context that we would look at these issues. What we know is that similar to home invasion issues, animal control issues are often transient. And so a family can come into town tomorrow, they can buy a house tomorrow, they can come into town with 5 pit bulls, and then all of a sudden the select board has 500 complaints about animals at large, vicious animals, dog bites, animals that aren't vaccinated, animals that aren't getting registered. And then you say, what do we do? Because the select board isn't necessarily prepared to deal with that. The select board might have identified an animal control officer who's willing to handle some calls. So anyways, this is to abridge this. What we've found was a difficulty for our office to provide this service across roughly 24 different municipalities that had different ordinances of different legal merit, as well as just what they were, and it was hard to train. Over the years, we have heard complaints from towns within Windham County saying we need animal control. Animal control officers are resigning within short periods of time. animals are causing problems for town members and or residents, and the towns don't know how to handle that. And it's hard because almost all animal control issues are delegated to the select board of the municipality. So what we had proposed back about 10 years ago was to create a county-wide model ordinance that each town could adopt. And there were concerns about local control because there's no county legislative function. There's no way to pass a county ordinance. So it really came down to some towns saying they wanted a leash law, other towns saying they don't want a leash law. Some towns saying they want a noise in the nighttime, the dogs barking ordinance. Other towns saying they don't care about that, it's not a concern. And we just found it hard to be able to thread the needle. What this program works to do is not remove the town's responsibility or ability to enforce animal control issues, but takes the commonality of the municipalities that are signing onto the program to say we are going to enforce those specifically. So what we'll handle is vicious animals, animals at large or dogs at large, registration issues around dogs, dog bites, working with the town health officer, and I'm probably missing something, but I think I explained that we're hitting the big ones that everybody agrees on. The process for this, I have a 24-hour dispatch, so if there is an animal control issue that is immediate, a person can call my dispatch and talk to a human being that moment to say this is the problem. My office will assess what the issue is and how we can triage that issue, and then we will assign the animal control officer to respond. This is in cooperation with 4 other towns. Overall, it's a cost-sharing mechanism between Newfane, the town of Windham, the towns of Putney and Westminster. And so the towns are contributing resources based on what we perceive their reliance on this will be. It is possible this year that there will be no calls in Newfane. I'm not here to dissuade anybody of that. This is somewhat like an insurance policy, whereas if the problem shows up tomorrow, we will be there to help address it. This provides about 10 hours of service each week, where we will provide services to the town of Newfane and the other towns in this agreement. And what we are looking to do is also bring on additional towns to be members, where we can then deliver across the county a full-time trained animal control officer who can professionally and humanely treat animals and the issues that the towns are dealing with.
Can you just clarify to me, you said it's 10 hours per week for all of the towns that have signed up?
Correct, for the full year. So if there was an at-large animal in Newfane this morning, that might take up 2 hours of the ACO's time. That would mean that there's 8 hours to use in Windham, Putney, and Westminster.
So you're capping it as 10 hours a week because the funding that you've been able to put together can only support 10 hours.
Correct. And so if we can get additional member towns into this, which I believe we will, but we started small just because we want to, this is a new funding system for my office. Right now, similar to the law enforcement contract, all of our contracts are fee for service. So what we're looking to do is try and create a cost sharing model that recognizes that control issues do affect the region as opposed to a specific, it's essentially delegated to the specific town to handle the problem. So we're trying to alleviate you of the burden, but recognizing it is a region-wide issue.
So the main reason why we were looking into this, and I think other towns are having issues, is that no one wants to be the animal control officer in town, which I don't blame them, or, because you can get bit. It's a lot of aggravation. So this is where towns have been having difficulty with older generations. Our average age is 55 years old in the town of Newfane, not young and spry necessarily. So that's why we're looking at a contract with the sheriff's office.
This is the first that I'm hearing that it's a female and a civilian, and that is great marks as far as I'm concerned, that it isn't a police officer showing up at someone's house to do this. I think that'll be much less upsetting to people. And that's a great thing.
Okay. Do you have the option, do you have the ability to receive grants or funds? Sheriff Anderson?
We do, and depending on, I mean, we currently receive a variety of funds, of which the town of Newfane benefits some, as do other towns in the county. But I'm not, are you aware of funding or grant funding sources that would help benefit an animal control program? Because I'm not.
Well, I'm putting it out there. I have a degree in nonprofit management, not that I'm looking for work, but there should be some, grants. I think it's something that we could talk about because, I've worked with animal issues, equine, et cetera. So I'm just wondering if that would be a way to build your animal control services.
It very well could be, and certainly we won't turn a blind eye to any reasonable funding source. I do know just in the roughly, Juanetta, please correct me if I get this wrong, 6 months that we've been talking about this, maybe 8 months we've been talking about this, that I've had a handful of other towns say, keep us posted because we're interested.
Yeah.
I think just by the sheer need of the region, we're going to see more towns come on. I spoke with one town. I don't want to say it simply because it's not, by no means is it public. But I spoke with one town where they said they'd be very interested, and that would, it would just, it makes sense to bring civilians into these roles and these issues. We don't need a trained police officer to do that. And quite frankly, I don't want to train a police officer to do this because it's not criminal issues. Animal cruelty is a criminal issue, and the animal control officer knows how to work with the police to be able to support those investigations. But animal control issues are truly not a law enforcement issue.
So this is already, we're starting this apparently July 1st because we have been discussing this for quite some time. So you'll be sending over a contract for us to sign?
It's effectively,
waiting for it.
Not being an attorney, yes, it's a contract, it's an MOU. I'm not sure how we're going to call it, but it will be an agreement between the town of Newfane, my department, and the other member towns on how this will function and work.
And what is our share of the cost
$2,700
for the year?
for a year. We pay less than Putney or Westminster.
Yep.
Right.
Because we're smaller?
Based on what we project our usage would be.
We did a rough analysis, and unfortunately there's no good data source, but we did a rough analysis based on town population, a subjective knowledge of issues that the town has had to handle, and history towards what we used to do when we were providing the service back roughly 10 years ago. So I want to say that Newfane and Windham are covering roughly 10 or 20% of the overall cost, and then Putney and Westminster agreed to share the remainder of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, instead of 2,700, it was 2,278. That was when Dummerston was in the mix. Did we recalibrate that other 10%?
It was when Dummerston was in the mix, but Windham was not. So Dummerston stepping out, and I can explain that. Dummerston stepping out was replaced by Windham stepping.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So for just the general public, if you haven't
Decided not to opt in here.
You keep breaking up, Mark.
Sorry. They decided not to opt in. No problem. I think I have good internet, but just told me it's unstable. So the town of Dummerston decided to step out because they had an unforeseen cost that they decided to remove the funds for this program due to the immediacy of that problem. So they are committed. They're looking toward next year based on the communication from the Selectboard, and we anticipate them coming aboard as well.
I'm excited to see this start. So as of July 1, anyone who has an animal control issue would call the Windham County Sheriff's Department?
They would call me and then I would facilitate with them. Is that not right?
So there's two folds to this. We're agreeing to be an answering point for your animal control issues because this will allow us to identify the data to help better define the program moving forward. To that point, issues that occur outside of what the memorandum of understanding would include, I'm going to use the leash law as an example. We would refer that to the select board's designee or animal control officer. So if you have specific issues that the town of Newfane cares about, you want to retain local control, you want to say we want the ability to have a leash law or not have a leash law, that's within your purview. And so issues around violations of those portions of your ordinance would then be subject to your local animal control officer handling that. The goal is to keep, one of the issues for towns in losing animal control officers, they're getting called at 2 a.m. They're volunteers who are then getting called at their places of business or work and being unnecessarily burdened by inconvenient issues or quality of life issues that where no danger was present. And there's a variety more, but the point being they were getting burned out by the sheer volume. I have a 24-hour dispatch that we can take the volume. So if it is a town issue, then we will pass it along to the town and you will get that during reasonable business hours. It might be an email, it might be through Winetta, it might be through a select board liaison, it might be through an identified animal control officer, but that's something for the town to decide how they want it to handle it.
Great, Shelley?
So, and with that, I think we should continue to look for an animal control officer.
Absolutely.
Who could set and look at the rules and laws and bring it to the select board. And then the heavy stuff will go to the sheriff's coordinator.
I have a question
Katie?
about the interoffice memorandum that just has a few points here. And number 7 is a little bit concerning to me. 7B says evidence of proof, video or photograph. Can you, Sheriff Anderson, could you, anything that we refer needs to have that? Is that what you, that's what my concern is, because a dog bite might not be able to be filmed or something like that.
Oh, you mean like how is he gonna know?
Right. How do we have evidence of proof?
Evidence of proof of bad behavior by the dog.
Can you tell me what you're referencing? I don't recognize it by that name.
It's
It's
actually from Winetta.
It's an interoffice memo from Winetta.
Back in March.
From March 16th, 2021. It has points of interest listed for development of the program. And 7 is contact information needed to be considered. 7A, witness statement. 7B, witness of proof or evidence of proof. And C, callback contact information. The evidence of proof portion is the portion that I worry about if that's necessary. Juanetta, do you?
Everybody's got a cell phone. If you see a dog misbehaving, they're taking photographs or pictures.
Okay.
It would be considered proof enough in order to make a complaint, to place that call and
Okay.
Yes.
we would act upon that.
We need, not necessarily him.
Oh, okay.
So we need to wait for the MOU from him and then we can we make our comments to you after we see that?
Okay.
Yeah, so just to provide some clarity, I don't think that is a mandatory requirement opposed to it helps aid us in the investigation. So to the point, if somebody has photographs or they have a recording or they have a video, versus somebody says, well, the dog's running around and we say, is it on your property? Well, I don't know where the property line is. Can you send us a video so we can look at a parcel map maybe? So those, there might be some just misunderstanding, miscommunication, or maybe something out of context. I'm not familiar with the memo itself. So when we discuss the MOU, I think we'll be able to settle any of those concerns.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anything further on our new animal control services?
I think we'll have more questions.
We can invite you back for another meeting once we see that. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for all your hard work and everything you and your officers do.
Thank you. Be well.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken Estey,
Yes.
please take the floor.
Okay. Yes, my name is Ken Estey. I use he, him pronouns. I'm chair of the Planning Commission, but I'm speaking to you now as a scheduled member of the public. And I've prepared my comments so I can be to the point and concise, use our time properly.
We need a time.
I'd like to address the events that occurred 2 weeks ago in this space. It's a matter of protocol, even equity. That is to say, the conditions under which public meetings can occur and the ingredients that make public participation possible. And one of the key elements of any successful public meeting is the sense that the space one is in is safe and that it's respectful and that where the same rules apply to everybody. And so what happened in public 2 weeks ago also must be addressed in public. One of the members of the public, in response to comments, stood up, turned around, and took off his face mask and addressed a colleague in a way that made that colleague stand up and, from what I could tell, was prepared to leave the meeting. I must say that for me, it felt aggressive and the behavior felt disrespectful. The rest of us 2 weeks ago were sitting down when we were making our comments, and the rest of us all kept our masks on while we were making those comments. I can only speak for myself. I was certainly concerned, deeply concerned 2 weeks ago, and I've felt that way ever since. And I felt sad and disheartened over the last 2 weeks. And I just wanted to share that with you. Because what happened last week to a colleague, I wouldn't want to have happened to anyone else here in Newfane. I wouldn't want that. And I don't think you would either. I wouldn't want anyone to feel like the select board is a place, or a select board meeting is a place that feels physically or medically unsafe. I wouldn't want anyone to feel like that. I wouldn't want anyone to feel like, well, I can't go to a select board meeting because it's not a safe place to be. You know, it's already difficult enough to get members of the public to come out and participate in town affairs, and we certainly don't want to do anything to make it even more difficult. So what I want to say is that I just wanted you to know this, and I wanted you to feel it with me if you can, and to certainly urge you to create and promulgate and promote a set of protocols and rules that speak to the best practices in public meetings, so that everyone who watches us, everyone who is here, can feel like, yeah, okay, sure, we disagree. Sure, we have big differences of opinion, but as a town, we all care about each other. You know, that we're pulling for each other. At the least, yeah, we might disagree, but you know, that we're looking out for each other. And to have a meeting where we can show that to each other and express that to each other. That's what I came. That's what I wanted to say to you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam.
I don't see any problem with what had happened, and you know, Ken, you have your own feelings about it, and thank you for bringing them up. But there was nothing that was dangerous in that situation, and the gentleman put his mask on immediately, but he wanted to be able to show his face. And we've had where if you're in a location to eat or whatever, you can take your mask off. The only reason why we're continuing with our masks right now is because of BCTV has their mandate that we must be masked. Currently, we are not required to wear masks in the state of Vermont. because the emergency order has been lifted. So I don't know if Tom Abbots would like to speak to your concern, but he is here, and I would give him the option to reply.
Tom?
My name is Tom Abbots. I'm the gentleman that they were speaking of. First, I've had my shots over 10 weeks ago. So I'm long past infectious, anything else. CDC, the state has recognized that if you have had your shots and you have been more than 2 weeks past that last shot, you're fully immunized, you are not a threat to anyone. And then as far as the accusation that I threatened a member of the public, I turned to the camera and I took my mask off because the point I was trying to make, I don't believe we should be hiding behind our masks. I understand the health issue. Believe me, I do. I lost my sister last summer to COVID. She was a nurse before the vaccinations were available. I also know other people who have died from this disease. I've seen what biological warfare does to people. This issue, when I turned to that woman, I was not threatening. I was addressing her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make overt physical movements towards her to threaten her. I even got her a chair early in the evening,
Right.
So she would be able to sit down. So as far as threatening, I won't say what I said last week, but I do believe that it is another, I'm not going to take shame for something that I didn't do. And I don't think the public should accept shame for not wearing a mask if you're vaccinated. If you're in your own environment, you don't need to wear a mask. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We do have, as part of the select board, we do have rules of procedure.
Yes, we do. And it's,
We did not re-adopt them this year for some, because there were no changes, correct, Lynetta?
correct.
So if we'd like to go over them, shall we read the whole thing out loud?
You want me to read it all?
Why don't we read the public participation portion
Sure,
of it?
well, I think it's really important for people to understand that this meeting is a public meeting, but it's not by the public. So there's rules also by the public that you need to understand. And I'm asked the select board together that we make this available to any Zoom person as a link or a page to refer to, and to note that this is what your participation requires.
So we'll start with letter F, which is public participation. 1, all meetings of the body are meetings in the public, not of the public. Members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunity to express opinions about matters considered by the body, so long as order is maintained according to these rules. Number 2, at the end of each agenda item, but before any action is taken by the public body at each meeting, there may be 5 minutes afforded for open public comment. By majority vote, the body may increase the time for open public comment and its place on the agenda. Number 3, comment by the public or members of the body must be addressed to the chair or to the body as a whole, and not to any individual member of the body or public.
Right.
4, members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. 5, if a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, he or she may not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. 6, order and decorum shall be observed by all persons present at the meeting. Neither members of the body nor the members of the public shall delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the meeting, or interrupt or disturb any member while speaking. Members of the body and members of the public are prohibited from making personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks. 7, members of the body and members of the public shall obey the orders of the chair or other presiding member. The chair should adhere to the following process to restore order and decorum of a meeting, but may bypass any or all steps when he or she determines in his or her sole discretion that deviation from the process is warranted. A, call the meeting to order and remind the members of the applicable rules of procedure. B, declare a recess or table the issue. C, adjourn the meeting until a time and date certain. D, order the constable to remove disorderly persons from the meeting.
And I mean, I also like to say that the election of the chair is somebody who is the leader of our board. We each all have the same authority. Angela's been elected to help manage the workload here and get information out and to work with Winetta, our administrative assistant. But we're all of equal standing here. We have a vice chair to step in to be the leader when Angela's not here. So other than that, we make a ruling, just like we did in this meeting, to have Angela sign a document on our behalf. So we all equally have the same amount of authority.
Anyone else like to speak? Oh, as a group, with the same authority as a group?
But not individually.
Right.
Yes, as a group, one can't make a decision without getting the quorum or the majority of the board.
Which is 3 or more of us.
Right.
Exactly. Would we like to sign in these rules, make a motion to sign these rules of procedure for the select board?
Yeah, we'll need one copy to sign, right?
Mhm.
But Mike's not here, but we can get him to sign.
You can stop in and sign, right, Mike? I apologize. Mike Fitzpatrick called in when he was late to the meeting. He is now here appearing by phone.
So I make a motion that we sign this rules of procedure for the Newfane Select Board, and that we also make it available for anybody coming into the public. We make copies available.
And put it on the website.
And put them on the chairs, whatever, each person has them, so if they have a question on how to, ask your questions to the select board, and also on our Zoom meetings.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Mike.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Yes. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. My name is Fiona Cruciavalle. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Windham as well. And one thing I would like to mention is I feel like we're kind of missing the point of what Ken was talking about. I think what we're talking about is how, as a community, when we are having a discussion, are we actually having a discussion with one another? When we were here 2 weeks ago, I didn't feel like when we brought a proposal, there wasn't inquisitiveness about what was happening. There was lots of talking over one another and not having really good conversation. And so I think one of the things that I would like to see in looking at how, I'd love a copy of that, because I think having protocols is really helpful for making sure that's part of, like, really good protocols helps with anti-bias, right? It makes sure that we're being fair towards one another. So I think what would be really helpful is thinking about how can we, and as the chair, like, how can we support you in making sure that we're having positive dialogue with one another and how we are able to communicate with one another in a respectful manner. So I think that's kind of something that I'd like to just voice, that I think that's something that we need to really consider about how can we, as a community, have dialogue with each other while having differences of opinion in a respectful manner. And sometimes it's not intention, it's impact.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm speaking with someone, I may not intend to offend someone, I may not intend to intimidate someone, but I have to be cognizant of how things land on other people and the impact of my words and the impact of how I'm talking to someone. And so I think that's something that we really need to be considerate of when we're communicating in a public forum.
Thank you so much. Katie?
Just want to say that conversation between members of the public isn't actually part of the meeting. You speak to us, but I think that's where, like, in very emotional conversations like the ones that we have participated in the last couple of weeks, it's actually a little bit outside of what we should be allowing, because back and forth is not part of that. And I think we need to be even more aware of that. You have a prepared thing to say, and rebuttal isn't really an option.
Also, I'd like to make a point. The select board has the option to speak as much and as often as they want. And I also last week was called a racist, and I called that 2 weeks ago. Keats, I called her out, or him out on it. And then she again said it again in an offhanded way. So those should not be allowed. I was deeply offended.
Dan?
I would just say it's great that you adopted that policy, because if you actually follow everything in that policy, none of that would have happened 2 weeks ago. So
Exactly.
I'm glad you for doing that, and we'll support you in whatever way we can.
Thank you, Dan.
It was an oversight.
I'm sorry?
It was just an oversight as far as the procedures to review it with our new board members and such.
Is there anything further on this topic, Deanna?
I have a point of question. When anyone speaks, are they addressing the chair of the board? So does the board chair recognize the other board members? Or is that just when you're talking to the public? I'm just curious as to how that works.
To direct it towards the chair.
Anybody can answer.
But, and yes. And then the chair would let people know who is speaking next.
But the board members don't have to ask. The board, so all of you do not have to have your comments.
We don't have to go
chair.
through her.
Got it.
Yeah.
Point of clarification. Thank you
She's
so much.
just the organizer, the director.
It says in number 3, comment by the public or members of the body must be addressed to the chair or to the body as a whole, and not to any individual member of the body or the public.
And then it
So
says
it's the
it again
entire
in
select
6.
board or the chair, and then the chair would.
And then again in 6, members of the body and members of the public are prohibited from making personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks. So that means looking somebody in the eye and giving them hell. We have to be very careful, especially in delicate and upsetting emotional conversations.
Is there any further comment about, and thank you so much for coming to speak upon it.
So
there's a motion on the table to approve and sign these rules of procedure, which was seconded by Mike Fitzpatrick. Are we ready for a vote, or do you have more comment?
Ready to vote?
All those in favor of accepting the rules of procedure for the Newfane Select Board as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the ayes have it. And I'll pass it down for signature. Thank you so much. And now we are at unscheduled members of the public. We have quite a few.
And we're at 8 o'clock. So
Yes, we are at 8
I
o'clock.
say we do a 1 minute.
Are we still, has Gloria spoken about
No,
Japanese?
we are not at old business yet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's 8 o'clock.
So
we've
the
been
board
2
as a
hours.
whole, how would they like to approach the unscheduled members of the public? Shall we do a time?
I would vote for a time.
1 minute.
1 minute, how about 3 minutes?
3
And
minutes?
people made the effort to come here.
Do we have a timer?
One out of the timer. Shall we make that a motion to do?
Sure.
So that it's,
I make a motion for 1 minute.
I thought it was 3.
3 minutes. I say 3
Or 2.
minutes.
I made a motion to make it for 1 minute
1 minute,
time.
okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
1 minute's long.
My discussion would be, I think, 3 minutes, but I don't want to make a
I
big
would-
issue of this.
I would agree with Anne. 2 minutes always seems just slightly too short,
Mhm.
and people try to hurry up and spit it out, but 3 should be okay.
I think so.
So there's a motion for
Is
1
there a
minute
motion?
that's seconded. All those in favor? For the 1 minute?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Opposed. And I'm the tiebreaker. I am going to oppose because I don't believe 1 minute is enough to get any type of point across, but is there a new motion?
I make a motion for 3 minutes for the public to speak.
Second.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yay.
3 ayes, 2 opposed.
You gotta allow a minute after everybody's had a chance, or no?
Say it again.
No, 3 minutes and we'll move into the next person.
Okay.
Who,
So
is
three
there
minutes.
somebody that would like to speak first as an unscheduled member of the public?
After all that.
Anyone online?
You got 3 minutes.
Brenda?
Brenda.
This is actually why I was here. So I just, Brenda Siegel, Newfane again. I just wanted to say that at last meeting, I was told that someone stood up and said that myself, that the Democratic Committee had been communicated with about this organization, Braver Angels, and we had not responded. I just wanted to clarify for the record that we had responded. And that individuals on the committee know about it and will be given the information and invited to participate if they would like to. And we have also invited people of different opinions and political opinions to have a cross-political dialogue. So I just wanted to correct that and also just say that I personally, as me, Brenda Siegel, not the chair of the Democratic Committee, do not believe that anti-bias or anti-racist training is at all partisan. And it's just about us, when we know better, we do better. And it's just about us being willing to learn and know better so that we can do better. And I think that does not, if we just remove that partisan piece from it and just go into it with that learning appreciation, then it can be really strong. I know that's not the discussion we're having tonight, but I did want to just add that in, and mostly here to clarify the record that we're absolutely in communication and people know, and we've done the research we need, and individuals will be invited if they'd like to.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Want to get our timer started next? Mr. Runge?
Yes.
Right? Yes.
I came to speak about the quote-unquote anti-bias issue, which actually is highly political. Despite the flowery words that they use to describe it, at the end of the day, it is critical race theory. I know this because I took the training offer today at 3:30. The last meeting I read in the paper, a gentleman said he heard dog whistles, racist dog whistles. Well, I heard dog whistles too. I heard dog whistles like anti-racism. I heard dog whistles like equity. I heard dog whistles like critical consciousness. Dog whistles such as intersectionality. Also references to individuals such as Kimberly Crenshaw, the founder of critical race theory. Also Peggy McIntosh, the woman who wrote Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, the woman who came up with the idea of white privilege. I don't know if any of you pay attention to the news, but there was recently a 67-year-old lady in California who was brutally assaulted by a FedEx driver and who cited it was a hate crime for, quote, white privilege, okay? Critical race theory is not a proper theory in the sense that a scientific theory explains the world around us and makes reliable predictions. You know, if a theory is an empirically based scientific framework, critical race theory meets none of these criteria. At worst, it is an unfalsifiable hypothesis. At best, it is a blood libel. It is an anti-white blood libel. We don't need this in our town. It is a takeover ideology that destroys everything it comes in contact with. And that's a feature, not a bug. If the select board implements critical race theory, it will only be a matter of time before Newfane faces exorbitantly expensive civil rights lawsuits. Do we really need this kind of litigation? There are lawsuits all over the country regarding this. In particular, I'd like to draw your attention to the case of William Clark, a biracial student in Nevada, who's white passing, so to speak, who was told that I'm sorry.
You're down to how much? You're 20
Go.
seconds left.
Keep going.
Keep going.
William Clark, a biracial student in Nevada, mother's black, father's white. He was told that he had to side as part of the oppressor class and that he was responsible for the oppression of his own mother. As a Christian, he disagreed with the lesson because he believed everybody is created equal in the image of God. Because of that, he was given a D in his course. Now the school district is facing multiple civil rights lawsuits. Does our town have the funds and the money and the taxpayer base to defend ourselves against the type of inevitable lawsuits that will be brought against us for indoctrinating the town with critical race theory?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Dan?
Dan DeWalt, he, him pronouns. I didn't come to speak, but I'm going to speak. I'm not even going to attempt to talk about this man's interpretation of critical race theory because I think it's wildly off base, but it really has nothing to do with anything that we have proposed. And I would like to make that clear. As Deborah so aptly put it, we have some folks in the town who don't always feel safe for a variety of reasons. And we can think they're great reasons or we can think they're ridiculous reasons, but it's real and it's true. And we also have a changing demographic in our country, in our state, where more people are coming in and more people of different color and more people of different lifestyles. And we, as wonderful a town as we are, could do better. And this is an inspirational, sort of aspirational initiative on our part to make the town of Newfane an even better place to be and help us expand our own awareness of things. I work in restorative practices, and you would think I would be all down with everything, that's changing in the world. But I benefit greatly when I get to do a training with someone. I benefit greatly when I have experiences like this that can train me. So this has nothing whatsoever to do with ideology. This has nothing whatsoever to do with power. It has nothing to do with critical race theory. And there are things that happen all over the country which are terrible things. None of that has anything to do with what we're doing. So I would just encourage you to just simply look at the words that we have sent you and said to you, and you can obviously want to listen to everyone else's words, but when you want to talk about our project, please listen to the words we've used because I think we've been very clear with them. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else online or in the audience new that would like to speak? Deb Luskin.
Thank you.
Welcome again.
Yeah.
I was really pleased to attend the anti-bias training that was offered by the town today. And I attended it because I am also your town moderator, and I want to be sure that I can be the most inclusive and equitable moderator that can serve the town at this time. So I found it really helpful, very, very interesting, very sobering and also the presentation was tremendously kind. I want to say right now, I don't think that anybody should be forced to take anti-bias training. I think it should be completely voluntary. And I am so grateful that the town allowed me to come and do this as part of my elected position. So that's really, I think we can just all, so I've seen that this, I've seen people say, oh, this is a political issue. Well, this is a political forum, and partisanship is something different. So, and as a community, there is nothing we can do better than try to be kind to each other and to the people we don't know yet.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Anyone else would like to speak as an unscheduled member of the public? Yes. welcome again.
No, Mark. If you choose to have the anti-bias training, I'm sure there's probably one thing that I can learn from it. That's all I ask if I go to any seminar, just to come away with one small tidbit. So I'd be happy to sign up for it.
Thank you.
Well, we're not in charge of offering anti-bias training. It's only being offered as a workshop for member towns and the select board members and employee staff and commissioner, appointees or whatever. So there's no recommendation, it's just being offered. And if you are a volunteer here, I believe you have access to it, but it's not being promoted or encouraged by the select board. It's just available through VLTC.
My point was, if it is offered, it's over, I can.
At some point. Well, yeah, we were just saying that the one that we're doing is given to us as an option to attend through VLTT.
As members.
Yeah.
But hopefully we will put together a list of stuff for the general public if they wish to. That's part of our goal.
The working group. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, Tom.
Thomas Abbott's, thank you again. Do I understand that the town is putting out a suggested reading list?
No.
Because this is all earmarks of the CRT.
Mutual Aid is doing it, but we asked that they give it to us.
You're promoting a course now that a couple of people have mentioned tonight that they've seen someplace on the town website possibly?
No, it's a member organization that
So
we're
it's
members of.
still being offered by the private sector. It
It's
hasn't been approved by.
Right, it's an agency and anyone's free to take part in anything that they offer. As far as meetings or,
everything from
policies.
tree bugs to how to spend ARPA money.
I didn't hear a vote to.
There is no vote.
I heard suggestions.
Yeah.
And
But we're
I've
not-
spoken to a number of the town employees in the last 2 weeks. None of them have any desire to partake in this. A lot of them feel threatened by it, that their position won't be renewed, their overtime or their whatever vacation time won't be. They feel threatened by this strong suggestion that I heard last week.
This is a
And I find
volunteer training.
That could be a legal issue. These people are
But it's coming from the legal sector of Vermont, correct?
Okay, we need to remember our rules of procedure that when someone, and I'm sorry, I'm interrupted.
Am I a falter?
No, I did it. I apologize.
I heard a couple people talking that they were anxious about this, that they felt their job was threatened. And that's the door opening to a lawsuit. And lawsuits are very, very expensive to answer, just to answer, frivolous. If there's grounds, this town couldn't afford 5 minutes of it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. And I did attend a meeting last Wednesday in Rutland that discussed critical race theory. We had state representatives, we had people from the teachers' unions, we had teachers, and we had people from the public of all God's colors and denominations. But the stories that we were hearing, this is a watered down version of Mao's Red Book, Stalin and Lenin's procedures.
3 minutes.
I'm so sorry.
This is not, as this gentleman said, the flowery words. When you say.
Time's up. Sorry. And then Anne had her hand up. And then we'll go We'll go to select board member and then Priscilla.
I would just like to reiterate what we said previously. This training came up through VLCT, of which we are a member, of which I believe every town is a member of VLCT. It is 3 sessions. We made it clear, and I would like to repeat it, should anyone feel they misheard it, that the class is absolutely voluntary. No one is taking names to find out who took it and who did not take it. There were over 400 people on the call today. We do not have a list of who took it from Newfane, nor would we ever request such a list. In no way are we tracking who is taking the class, nor does it matter to us. An issue had come up. Many of us thought it was a good idea. We thought the VLCT course might be a helpful one. So we let people know that it's available. As I understand, the number of people chose to take it. We decided we would discuss what we thought of the meeting when the 3 sessions are completed, to see if we thought this was a useful particular course that we might want to recommend for the future. As I understand it, that is all that we were signing up to do. I do remember that we asked the Mutual Aid Society to get us certain information. I do not remember us taking on making that available to the public, although I'm sure that the Mutual Aid group would be happy to do so. So I think what we did was limited, targeted, and in no way trying to keep track of what any employee of the town chose to do or chose not to do. It is simply none of my business, either as a select board member or as an individual.
Thank you, Anne. We have to go up here to Priscilla. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So you guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you very much. David and I are just wondering, as we're both volunteers on town boards, to take the anti-bias training. Is there something that we need to, do we contact Winetta, or is it being offered, or how is this going to happen?
It is 3 classes offered by VLCT. Winetta can get you the link to sign up, and you simply have to be an employee or a volunteer of the town in order to take it. And the next class is next Monday, and the 3rd class is, I forget the date, in July.
July 14th.
Yeah, but I think you might have had to have signed up for all 3 classes.
Technically, you don't have to. They ask that you do.
Oh, okay.
But you can sign up for them individually.
So does it happen again? Do we have an opportunity to sign up another
The materials that they went over today, it was recorded, and so you could listen to it, even though you weren't, there was no discussion today. There was just some online chatting on the Zoom, but it was recorded and you could listen to it, and they're going to make the handout available as well. So you certainly could catch up with whatever you didn't hear today.
So neither David or I have a recollection of being notified about this. If we had been listening to these meetings, would we have known about it?
We told people about it in the context of the meeting, but our feeling was that until we had taken the course, we didn't know if it was any good or not.
Okay,
so we weren't going to make a huge deal about it. Just, we thought we would check it out first ourselves, and then we could make a recommendation.
Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Very good.
I have a question. So, I mean, Priscilla, are you aware of BLTC services?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to see, because, you know, as the chair of the Board of Civil Authority, there's a lot of information there too, or if you're a chair of planning or development or community.
Yeah. I've been a select board member 2 times, so.
Okay.
I definitely have some experience with VLTC. So does David.
Good.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yes, Dan. Sorry.
I would just like to express my concern. If the highway department is feeling pressured, that's really unfortunate. And that's a result of misinformation. Because the information, as Dan pointed out, the board created was very clear. And our proposal was very clear. And none of us had anything that would have indicated any of those words. So I'm concerned that misinformation is being given to our road crew. And I hope that they can somehow at least just be given the documents that we're talking about and let them make their own decisions.
Thank you so much.
Well, again, I want to offer you the information that I was offended. I was called a racist at the last meeting, and I felt very offended by that. And I hope it doesn't ever happen again. And we need to follow our policy and procedures.
Yes.
Just real quick.
Is there anybody new that would like to speak?
30 seconds.
No, you
Sorry.
need to wait one.
I just want to take one moment and state out loud what VLCT, what the acronym is for, which is the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. For those of you who are first time or just don't know what that means, so that that's a little bit clearer.
And it's really a great resource.
It is a good resource.
We rely on it, and they even have attorneys for our use as select board members. So it's very, very good.
Is there anyone new who would like to speak? Yes, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I have been present on Zoom at the previous meetings, and I know that you had decided to wait to recommend the VLCT training, but I wonder if there's a way to let people know, just hearing Cristelli and David Cotton's comments. I know about it because I'm a member of the Planning Commission that's been discussed, but I wonder if there's a way that folks who can make their own choice in the first instance, whether they want to attend. If you have that information, if you could share it with town volunteers and committees without it necessarily endorsing it, but making sure that people have the option if they're interested at this juncture.
We can't make any recommendation.
You can't share the information with them?
No, I think
I can,
if she's a member of the Planning Commission.
if they wanted to share the information themselves, whether they take the class, it would be certainly voluntarily.
Mhm.
I'm taking the class. I feel that knowledge is power, and what I take away from the training is going to be what I take away from the training. It's going into it with an open mind, with a clear understanding. It is a learning. Doesn't mean I'm going to pass, but
the question is where to find the link for these trainings?
Yeah, just if people don't, I know that you were gonna wait, like the select board is gonna wait to recommend it to other town volunteers, and if there are folks who may be interested in participating ahead but aren't getting that information directly, is there a way for you to share it with them without running afoul of your decision not to endorse it?
We can't really endorse it. I mean,
the VLCT information and the training is only for the municipality members that are passive members. We had the training here today, and our community volunteers or organizations or chairs came here for the training, but we can't share the training webinar with the public.
But can I just say that if someone wanted to take it, that you can check with Winetta to find the link to be able to do that.
I just want to make sure that people know that it exists so that they can check with Winetta if they're not getting it. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, we need to,
Now, people who are, I'm sorry to pull in,
No,
but just to clarify, like, people who may legitimately take the VLCT training because of their role in a town service or voluntary capacity. I'm just hearing folks say they didn't know about it, and
Right.
wondering if there's a way to make sure that they know that they can sign up for it, and how else, if not through the town, they could get that. Just if we can help people know that it's out there. That's it's a narrow.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So this resource is available, and I think probably most people who are volunteering know about it. Because we've
been talking about it for quite some time.
That, and also a lot of us have been on boards and committees and have that resource available to us. So it's really in-house options.
Is there anyone that has not spoken yet that would like to speak?
And I think we're
Don't we have
at
like 15 seconds?
25.
I think we're,
15 seconds just to address the racism. I can explain to you in 15 seconds.
I would really like to hear what everybody would
Okay,
like to
sure.
say. However, we need to continue with our town business, and I encourage everybody to come to select board meetings.
Okay,
And I
sorry. It's my
I
first
know,
time here.
it's okay, I understand. And I apologize for having to cut it a little bit short, but we do need to continue on with the town business. And so we need to talk about our COVID-19 restrictions. And I think we've already mentioned that already, that we're just waiting for BCTV. And then I believe our next meeting, which we need to schedule because it's a holiday, that would be the last meeting.
So, Madam Chair, so have we contacted them with a request?
We talked to our cameraman tonight and he said at 2 weeks.
So I think what we need to do is get email.
Get something in writing.
Yeah, to the director, executive director, not relying, I'm not saying that you're lying or anything, but officially so we can note that on our website.
Perfect. And Monetta will take that one. Thank you. And Anne, we have you here as our.
I'm sorry, I need clarification. So on our website, we're looking at our restrictions. Was that a voted?
No, we're asking,
we're just, I thought we were just talking about our meetings.
What
Or
goes
the
on
whole
website?
office.
well, we need to talk about our whole office.
Okay,
So regarding our select board meetings, it's going to be based on the BCTV.
Yes.
Ability to allow us to move on with the COVID restrictions because it's based on their
masks
restrictions at this point, not by.
mask will be optional. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
I think that's fine.
Yeah, you can wear a hat too.
And follow the state guidelines.
And you just follow this. So now we gotta talk about, like, here in this building, I think it's been running as an open building. So I think we
That's my
need to
understanding from the
officially,
town clerk.
we need to officially put that on the website, maybe put a press release out, notice that, people, what are our hours now in the town meeting, the town office?
So would we put that?
Regular
I
hours?
believe the hours have always been the same.
They have been?
Yes,
Okay.
they just needed to make an appointment, but
They
now
needed
that.
to make an appointment and Carol still would prefer to have appointments for research or.
Right,
title
I
work.
understand, yeah, so I think, I don't know if the rest of these select board members know about it, but you want to just give an announcement so people know publicly?
Carol is working, scheduling appointments so that, because of her limited space in there and the space in the vault, that there's not an overabundance of
space.
Unused, bumping into each other unnecessarily. She just feels it's a more safe environment.
Makes sense.
And would prefer to continue to make appointments.
Mhm.
The rest of us are taking walk-ins and the listers are here from 9:30 to 1.
And I think by rights as the town clerk, she has the right to do whatever, right?
Yeah, I believe
She's
so.
her own boss.
Yeah, we have no control over that.
So,
She would be, that's just for going into the vault.
For doing title work at the table on the computer or going into the vault to do research.
Right, but if somebody needed to come in real quick for a marriage certificate, they can drop by at any time or,
Yeah.
whatever those.
Yeah, it's really
Great.
It gets messy in there with all these books opened up and everything else.
So that's good. Do we need to vote or we can move on?
Do we need to vote?
I don't believe we need to vote.
We're waiting to hear back from BCTV.
And so we'll move on to the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, with Ann and the Planning Commission. Would you like to speak briefly?
This is not about the planning commission.
Oh.
This is just about the, what, Ken already talked about the planning commission. But this is just about a meeting I attended about the current status of the ARPA funds. And I wrote up just a short memo for people. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the couple of critical things to be aware of. The state will be requesting the funds of the federal government, they believe this week. Once that request has been made, the towns have 30 days in which to make their request. If we don't request the monies, the state takes them back. So we have to do that. We don't want to give our money away. Just 1 second, that's one other time. So in order to make that request, it requires us having a person who is defined as the, I'm sorry, there's a term for it in the moment.
Coordinator or something.
It wasn't coordinator, but it was like that, right?
Official.
It was official designated person.
Yeah.
So we need to select who that person will be. This was a big item of discussion at the meeting that I attended with BLCT.
Yeah.
And they, everyone was asking, well, who should it be? Who should it be?
Yeah.
And they were saying that it really could be anybody. It could be a select board member. It could be your town clerk. It could be the treasurer. I would make the recommendation that we make it the treasurer.
Yeah.
Because this is a system that Melissa is going in and out of
Right.
every day. She'd be the one who'd be able to be the most on top of it, and she does a great job. So I would propose Melissa for that position.
Would she also be writing the reports that are due quarterly and annually?
No, I don't think so.
For that?
She might be doing, we have to clarify what the reporting is going to be, but probably when we get to that point, we're going to want some additional help, probably a consultant to help us write those reports. Yes.
She will be supplying the financial report.
Yes, the data.
But she won't be doing the report of the
Right.
activity.
I think they, at that point, will need help for it, and you can use your ARPA funds for that help.
Good.
Okay.
So there's
Mm-hmm.
approximately, what, 250, 275,000? That's it?
Not yet. At the moment, the money has been distributed in two ways. One way is the federal government gives it directly to the towns and villages. There's money for the village of Newfane. So the money that we would be getting immediately is the ones that have been allocated for the town, and that's about 157,000.
Yeah.
The second one is the federal government is allocating the monies to the counties.
Yeah.
The problem with Vermont is we don't have county level government.
Right.
So our representatives in Washington are working with the federal government to figure out how to distribute those funds directly to the town. That has not been worked out yet. The numbers that Welsh's office gave me as an estimate, and it's only an estimate, it would be about 97,000.
Right.
So in total, hopefully we'd get 250,000.
50,000, yeah. And then figure 20% consulting, whatever. And then we got limitations.
Yes.
God, I hope
And then there's also
20%
money
go to
for
consulting. Jeez.
What do you think?
What do I think about what?
Consulting fees.
I've been asking around to find out what consulting fees are like, so I've been getting some numbers. And I think when we get there, we'll have to, send out for, do an RFP and get proposals and so on.
So we'll address that when we get there.
Yeah, I think that's what we don't have to address tonight.
As far as the recommendation,
we do need
to vote on
Yes.
having Melissa as the representative, or
I
just
make
the
a motion
recommend
to make Melissa Brown the designated
town's representative?
town representative.
And I'll just add one more thing, that I asked Melissa what she thought about this, and she was in agreement. She was happy to do it.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Great, thank you so much for the presentation, Anne. I appreciate that. And I don't see that Gloria is still with us. Is she still with us?
She had to do another, meeting at 7 o'clock, so
Can we invite her back
yes.
at another time?
Can I
Okay.
make a suggestion?
Yes.
That we also put the information, but, on the website about the knotweed.
It's not there
Because it's an annual thing. But also that I've heard from other people in the community that the process that she's stating is not necessarily the end-all process. So looking at other possibilities of how to deal with it. Okay?
Great. New business. The only thing I have for new business is July 5 is our next meeting, and it is considered a holiday. What?
Also the Zoom thing.
And look, right after, we'll put that on there.
Oh, I already thought it was July 6th.
Why?
I don't know, because it's a federal holiday.
Oh, so you'd like to?
I just assumed it was the day, next
Would
day.
you like to meet on Tuesday, July 6th, since Monday is a holiday?
That'd be fine with me.
Do we need to vote on that?
Do we need to vote on it?
No.
I have no idea, but when's that day? It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Look at the bottom, fourth row down, or fourth row up.
So our meetings for July would be the 6th and the 19th.
Oh, changing two of them.
No,
just
one.
Monday,
Okay,
because Monday is the observed holiday for the 4th of July.
okay. Oh, I see, okay.
Can I have a motion to change our meeting date for?
I make a motion that our next meeting be scheduled for Tuesday, July 6th at 6 PM.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And what were you?
The last item I wanted to bring up is that even though we are now meeting in person, obviously many people have been able to join us via Zoom, that we just make a motion and vote to continue using Zoom as part of our town meetings so that people can participate in both ways.
Absolutely.
I second
like
it. Is that the motion?
That was my motion.
Okay, I second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And now we're moving into, is there any other new business? Anyone? All right, we have correspondence. There are several letters.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's my cast off file.
The first one is from Thomas Eli, dated June 18th, to the Newfane Select Board regarding the June 7th meeting. Dear Select Board members, I attended via Zoom and spoke briefly at the June 7th meeting on the agenda topic, West River Valley Mutual Aid Working Group. While I am not familiar with the protocols of the Newfane Select Board, I write to share my concern that the WRVMA group was not given the recognition of speaking first when this agenda item was before the Select Board. Instead, a non-resident, Alice Flanders, I believe from White River Junction, who was not listed on the agenda, was invited to speak uninterrupted for a significant amount of time in what appeared to me to be an attempt to frame the narrative of this agenda item in a very personal, partisan, and political way. It is not that I object to the Select Board inviting whomever it wishes to speak to an agenda item. Rather, my concern is that the members of the WRVMA group who had been asked by the Select Board to provide further information on the topic of anti-bias and diversity training were not invited to speak first and share the information that they had prepared at your request. Also, when they were invited to speak, they were interrupted several times before they finished their presentation by some Select Board members and other members of the public who were not part of their presentation. It is not that there should not be a time for questions and dialogue. Rather, it seemed a bit rude and unprofessional not to allow the group to offer their full presentation. I very much appreciate the opportunity to participate in the deliberations of our town government, and thank you for making it possible for that to happen, both in person and via Zoom. My hope is that as we continue the conversation around this topic, that the Select Board will value the work that the WRVMA group is doing and respect our contributions and commitment to the town of Newfane and its future. Respectful conversation, even and perhaps especially across differences, is an important and essential commodity in these days when so much is at stake. Thank you for your service and for the opportunity to express these thoughts. I am happy to discuss what I have written in more detail if any wish to do so. All the best, Thomas Eli. June 18th, 2021. Dear Newfane Select Board members, I want to thank members.
Who's it from?
It's from Elizabeth Erickson. I want to thank members Angela Sanborn, Ann Golob, and Katie Johnson Applin who are taking the anti-bias training. I am looking forward to this discussion and feedback following the training. As a parent of 3 children, I will try my hardest to model a growth mindset. Ideally, I would like to live and grow in a community that believes they can grow for the better. Growth mindset is an understanding that working our brains makes it stronger and is an asset to benefit from our whole lives. Putting an effort into learning beyond our comfort zones, concentrating on the new skills and practicing them is a growth mindset. I feel it is not a weakness to admit one could improve, and changing doesn't mean you were a horrible person before, but that you can be better. Modeling to our children that you can and have made mistakes too is helpful to them. If as adults we can show that we can practice hard, uncomfortable skills, we are modeling that intelligence and ethics are changeable and can be developed. Establishing a community standard of being proud of effort and risk-taking and not being afraid or ashamed of making mistakes. 6 elements of effective effort are time, focus, persistence, resourcefulness, use of feedback, and commitment. I believe these anti-bias training initiates the time, focus, and resourcefulness needed to begin to look at ourselves as a community and how our actions, behavior, and policy affect the whole of the community around us. Next, persistence. Use of the feedback and commitment could be the next step in growing our community for the better of all of its members. Thank you for your consideration, Elizabeth Erickson.
So,
Yes.
I have a concern because I think that when somebody's writing a letter congratulating 3 board members for taking a seminar and condemning or trying to shame other board members, I think it's pretty prejudiced and it's pretty darn arrogant.
I'm just reading.
We all, I know, but I'm making a comment for the public, and I think that we all have the right to take or not to take any programs that are available to us as select board members. And I think it's pretty darn prejudiced to assume that if you don't partake in it, then you're a racist. And again, I'm going to bring it up because I was called a racist, and I take big offense on that.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry, we're gonna continue with the correspondence.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comment. This is from Jim Sinon to the Newfane, Town of Newfane Select Board, dated Monday, June 21st, via email to the Town of Newfane. Once again, I must express my objection to this repeated attempt by the West River Mutual Aid Group using deceptive and deplorable tactics to ram through an agenda that is in and of itself biased and divisive. How many times do they have to be told no? J.R. Simon, Newfane. June 17th, 2021, Dear Newfane Select Board, this is from the West River Valley Mutual Aid Group, Anti-Racism Working Group. Dear Newfane Select Board, we write to follow up on your earlier request that we provide references for anti-racism, anti-bias, and or diversity, equity, and inclusion training. The suggestions and recommendations in the attached list have all come from members of the Newfane community. We are not personally familiar with all of these resources, but would be happy to help you evaluate them. We expect to receive further recommendations and will forward them as we receive them. And then it has 2 links, one from BDCC, that they say is helpful, another from the Vermont Business for Social Responsibility, also has a compiled list of resources. Additionally, as we mentioned previously, we expect to receive more information from the Vermont Racial Equity Advisory Panel, which is compiling resources for municipalities. We understand that the mover provides trainings for its staffs and that they are informative and very useful. We will provide more details if we can. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, West River Valley Mutual Aid Group, Anti-Racism Working Group. This will be available here if anybody is interested in these resources. They can contact Juanetta. The next is Bert Picard, Friday, June 18th, regarding anti-bias training. Dear Angela, Ann, and Katie, dear neighbors, dear select board members, thank you so much for supporting the anti-bias training. I live here on Hunter Brook Road, and it's so important to me that we move forward on this. This will help us continue to grow as a loving, inclusive, supportive community. I do not understand how anyone can oppose this, and I thank you for your clear moral stand and courage to support this training. A heartfelt thank you for Picard, Hunter Brook Road.
Madam Chair, again, this is the point. The letter was addressed to you three who are taking the class, workshop.
I do believe I'm supposed to read all correspondence that comes in.
No, I'm not saying
Okay.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, again, there's a lot of shaming going on and prejudice against others that are not taking the course. And I think it's pretty darn rude and to assume that I'm a lesser person without morals.
I'm sorry, but just because according to critical race theory, any opposition to
Excuse me,
critical
you don't have the
race
floor.
theory is a place of racism, that's
Mr.
why.
Ryan?
I'm sorry.
You have to be addressed by the select board chair.
So I'm just making a note of it.
Okay. So this is June 16th, 2021, to Angela Sanborn, Katie Johnson Applin, and Ann Golob. Thank you for agreeing to take the diversity, equity, inclusion training offered by VLCT. This is an essential step to bring our town government up to date with societal and professional norms and in line with other regional governments and employers, which is obviously necessary and has been made clear by unprofessional and disrespectful behavior in recent meetings. It means a lot to our family that you're taking the VLCT training, as we want our community to be welcoming to everyone. We look forward to hearing your review of the training at a meeting later this summer, and we hope that it will be a good fit for our town employees and volunteers going forward. It is time to ensure Newfane town government makes an effort to understand the perspectives of diverse residents. Sincerely, Julia and Henriette Carr, South Newfane.
Madam Chair, again, I want to make a note. That was pretty rude and assuming that I'm bad for not taking the course.
Okay, thank you. From Stanley Nova Jr., June 17th, anti-bias training in Newfane. Although not a Newfane resident, I wish to express my support for select board persons Sanborn, Golob, and Johnson Applin. It is wonderful to view their confidence, sense of self-worth, and community spirit as demonstrated by their willingness to view education as no threat as to who they are. Furthermore, their professional demeanor and mutual respect is how citizens should interact with each other. Regards, Stanley Noga, Brooklyn.
Madam Chair, again, a threat to not, what was that statement? I take offense to it. I think it's rude that any letter that comes to the select board is identified by 3 people only. And to shame me and other people on this board is rude and obnoxious and should not be allowed.
Well, it kind of goes against what Ann just got done saying a little while ago, too.
Exactly, but that's why the
All
rules.
these employees are named. I mean, you guys, I mean, that's what I said right now. I mean, not that I give a shit what anybody thinks about me. I don't, you know. I don't give a shit less what they all. I'm not racist. I'm not nothing. But just because I don't take this course, they'll make I'm any worse than either one of you 3. And I said, you know, like Ann said, you know, nobody knows anybody's name, who started it, who does it. All the employees, we don't care who they are. It's just like Tom said. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these other towns, the people know who these people are, and probably some of the employees are friends. But I said, I just think it is pretty one-sided the way these people are doing this. I mean, the way I almost look at it, these people are carrying on so much about it, the ones maybe who've got the real problems, you know? But, I mean, that's all I've heard about is this. One thing I thought at our last meeting, we were all done with this, is that you guys come back with your 3 things, and every weekend this is we're taking over an hour again tonight on this.
I know.
And I said, this is ridiculous, you know, I mean, we voted, you know, we cannot make people do this. And I said, you know, just because you guys volunteer to do it, that's fine. A lot of people volunteer for a lot of classes,
Exactly.
But I mean, we don't carry on about it so much. And I said, yeah, like this here, I mean, Now, I don't get what I said, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. But I said, this is kind of sounding like, just like Shelley said. You know, they told me they're praising you three. And, you know, more or less they haven't named us yet, but that's what they want to do. And I don't care if they do. But, like I said, I'm no more racist. I've lived in these goddamn towns all my life. And I've never had a problem with anybody, black or anything. Until some of these people like this be the ones you'll have a problem with. Just because you didn't take it, so they feel that you should take it. I mean, I don't see a problem with it. I think a lot of our schools are teaching a lot of this stuff that shouldn't be taught either. I see a lot of that this year when they're doing the home schooling on the computers. I mean, some of the stuff they were trying to teach our kids is ridiculous. And I said, you know, this thing right here is, I don't care if anyone you want to take it, you take it. Same like a lot of them classes they give us. You guys want to take it, you take it. I don't have time to take it. It doesn't make me any worse than anybody else.
Thank you, Mike.
I would just like to say, I do not think it casts aspersions on anyone who chooses not to take it, period. Period. Some of us chose to, period. And I think that
That's a personal choice, and you guys should keep it personal.
Excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay for the letters to.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, Tom. Thank you.
So I just want to say that I would like to reiterate that this was being put forth as a suggestion. Whoever chose to do it was fine, and that's kind of it.
Well, Madam Chair, you understand where I feel.
I do.
Okay? It's not right. I'm a Christian woman, and what I said was that we should be teaching this in our own homes and living by our own moral code. I've heard people say that I don't have morals because I'm not taking this. How damn, this is offensive. Offensive.
Well, I would like to not see it back on the agenda until you three have your course, and if we want to talk about it at that time, we'll talk about it.
Well, that's what was discussed at the last meeting.
We've already discussed this, and I thought we'd come to a conclusion. There's nothing to do in the town except for DLT's got a class out there for anybody who belongs to the town members and a town employee. If they want to take it, they can take it. It's not going to be pushed on anybody. Nobody's recommending it. And it doesn't make the guys that don't take it any goddamn worse.
Exactly.
Like I said, this is dividing people, and I don't like it. I've never had an issue here in town, and I do not expect to have an issue in the future. And I'm not going to be run out of this town.
I have 3 more letters to read. This is from Richard and Lorraine Westcott, dated today. Dear Select Board members, Rick and I would like to go on record against the anti-bias training requested by the West River Mutual Aid Group. We find this training to be racist, divisive, and harmful to our community. Thank you, Richard and Lorraine Westcott. Next, I have June 21st, 2021, from Gloria Cristelli. Dear Select Board members, I attended the last 2 Select Board meetings on Zoom. Thank you for making this option available. I was distressed by Shelley Huber's non-professional behavior. She states her position and then restates it repeatedly. Shelley has every right to state her opinion, but not talk over members of the public who are presenting their own positions. She has the responsibility to listen respectfully. When it has been clearly stated that no one is being required to take any type of training, she repeated herself in saying that training cannot be mandated. Listening and processing what is said is an important skill. A week or so before the request from the Select Board to investigate offering anti-racist, anti-bias training, I received a phone call from Shelley. She had heard about the letter and she stated unequivocally that the Select Board had adopted a statement and that was enough. She stated that she was raging and her tone of voice supported this. She said that WRVMA needed to stop the letter before it went any further and that if the letter went to the Select Board, quote unquote, it wouldn't be pretty. The use of the pronoun we in Shelley's rant implied that she was speaking for the Select Board, so I finally asked her if that was the case. It was only then that she said no, that this was her opinion if I hadn't asked. Would have ended the conversation assuming that she was calling on behalf of the board. Basically, Shelley talked and I listened. I sometimes inserted "I hear you" and made no confrontational statements, parentheses, that I can remember. I did ask her if she had ever been bullied or felt threatened. I shared the bullying that I experienced when I was on the select board. She said that she knew how to stand up for herself. The last statement, "I know how to stand up for myself," speaks volumes. It also complements Alice Flanders' repetitious and lengthy presentation, which was all about, quote, "me, myself, and I," end quote. What is one person's reality is not everyone else's. It promotes the idea that if I'm not as strong or intelligent or pugnacious as you, I am inferior and just need to pull myself up by my bootstraps. We all have a story, and I could tell you how I grew up in northern Vermont, ate commodity food, saw my stepfather let my pet heifers die of hunger because we couldn't afford hay. I never doubted that I would go to college. I paid my own way with not a penny from my folks. A highlight in my teaching career was the privilege of working with Dr. Jane Goodall in Taiwan, where I was teaching. This poor girl who never traveled out of Vermont as a child, I feel privileged, not superior. If anti-bias, anti-racist training is made available, even those who perceive themselves as, quote, "the strong," end quote, can learn something. Listening without judging is something that I am continually working on. I listened to Shelley, but in the end of the conversation felt threatened. Quote, "do this or else," end quote. No one has to, quote, "win," and all can learn. Sincerely, Gloria Cristelli.
Well, that is not true. And parts of that came before us. So again, people are trying to get me out of this town, get me off this board. And believe me, I will not be leaving.
And Mr. Wunsch, did you read your letter when you were speaking before?
I paraphrased it a little bit, but I was going mostly off of my handwritten notes.
Okay, I'll just read the whole thing real quick. It's from Mr. Runge, Joseph Runge, stated today, critical race theory training. Good afternoon, this email is directed to the select board. I am a resident of the town of Newfane, and I do not support the imposition of this proposed anti-bias training, which is nothing more than critical race theory dressed up in a more palatable language. I read in the Brattleboro Reformer last week that one of the proponents accused the opposition of using quote-unquote dog whistles to quietly signal their racism. I would like the select board to know that I too heard many dog whistles from the proponents of the anti-bias training. Buzzwords like equity, inclusion, and most of all anti-racism are all dog whistles for the critical race theory. Properly understood, critical race theory is not an actual theory. A theory is an empirically based scientific framework that explains the world around us and makes reliable predictions. Critical race theory meets none of these criteria. At best, it is unfalsifiable hypothesis. At worst, it is nothing more than anti-white blood libel. And we do not need this in our town. It's a takeover ideology that destroys everything it comes in contact with. And that is a feature, not a bug. If the select board implements critical race theory, it will only be a matter of time before the town of Newfane faces exorbitantly expensive civil rights lawsuits. Do we really have the money for this kind of litigation? All the best, Mr. Range. And this, folks, concludes our evening for tonight.
Thank God. And I'm sorely disappointed.
Are we doing a possible executive session or do we not need one tonight? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to thank everyone for coming and I appreciate hearing all of your words and have a good night, stay safe, and we'll see you on July 6th.